Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family beyond the binary, good evening and welcome to the Natter Community Beta Clash. My name is Warren Jungle God Hammond and joined tonight on the mic by Jag. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. This is an awesome tournament, honestly. Like, this is one of the first of Overwatch 2 that isn't Overwatch League. We get to see 5-on-5 action tonight. We get to see a lot of big names in the Tier 2 scene. What more could you ask for? It's going to be a great night of games, and we got quite a few of them. 3 in a row for us here on the casting desk to open up this tournament.
It's going to be fantastic. We are going to start tonight with a matchup between Hour Zero and TNS. But before we get to the details about them, I just want to remind you all that this tournament has a $3,000 plus prize pool right now, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm just blown away that they've been able to raise this much money already. But you can raise even more because thanks to Vite Ramen, you are able to donate directly to the prize pool using a link that I think we're going to get dropped in chat here in just a second for you. So be sure to check that out. Be sure to donate if you can. Would love to see this prize pool grow even more. But why don't we talk a little bit about these teams now, Jag?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Hour Zero, this is a team that's been around for a long time. In fact, one of the first tournaments I ever casted, they participated in. So, that was back in 2020. And in fact, this is a roster that they're bringing back from 2020. They've had a lot of different iterations in the last few years, but this is essentially that OG roster plus one player that we're going to talk about very briefly. But they said they were turning back the clock. This is it. But there is one big difference. It is 5v5. So one less tank player on this roster, but a lot of familiar faces probably in the tier 2.5, tier 2 community. I think the biggest addition, and really only addition we got to talk about here, is Mekon coming in from Bay State University. Has really showed up in the collegiate scene the last few months. Recently just won the Boston Uprising Collegiate Cup, which was a LAN event in Boston at the Uprising facility. And, coming off of just a lot of successful campaigns overall. Meanwhile, TNS is a pretty lesser known team. I know there are a few names that you're more familiar with your experience, playing in community tournaments. But that's not necessarily a bad thing to be unknown because you have the element of surprise. Those names might not be known just yet, but here's a perfect time to make a statement and become known. And they're a team that also are coming off a 2-0. Both teams got 2-0 victories in the first round. So even though Hour Zero might have the more known faces, I would not say they're necessarily the favorites going into this.
Neither would I, and you're absolutely right. I'm familiar with two of these players in particular. That's going to be Exalted and Dr. Grimm. And, we just got the teams just a few minutes ago, and so it was quite a surprise to me in chat when I looked at these rosters, and I saw, I am not joking, my old coach is on this team. Right, Exalted playing support. Now, Exalted is a phenomenal player. He's reached GM in all three roles in just about every season he's played. And in addition, he's got a wonderful mind for explaining concepts and helping to build up a team. So I imagine, even if we don't necessarily see him on the kill feed, he's going to be an enormous part of this team. As is Dr. Grimm. Dr. Grimm, just a fantastic tank player, helped me out tremendously on my team as well. So they're two players that I'm familiar with and who I am certainly going to be watching. But we're going to be headed first to Oasis, Jag. And what do you expect from this?
That's a good question. What do we expect from this? Because everything that we once knew, just throw it out the window, right? First of all, it's not even daytime in Oasis anymore. It's nighttime, and there it is. It's completely blacked out. We're, enjoying a little bit of the nightlife in this metropolis in the middle of a desert. I'm expecting, basically two compositions. It's either going to be the Doomfist or it's going to be the Winston. We've seen a lot of this in Overwatch League. That's what it looks like. I'm a bit surprised we're coming out with the Moira for Aramore instead of going out for the Ana, as we see on the other side for Andrew. But, if you can get all the AoE healing in with the healing orb, doesn't really matter if you get those antis in or not.
Yeah, that's certainly true, but oh my gosh, not even going to need one of those as Train Cloud is immediately removed from the fight. Viral going down very, very low as well, as both of these teams are fighting over possession and control of this jump pad right here. Such a great place to, stage a dive from, which is what both of these teams are going to be looking for. TNS going to be backed off just a little bit right now. Rather, they're going to be taking control of the point. Hour Zero backing off and giving them first control.
Yeah, two very quick kills there from Titan, both dash kills, so they get the reset to get out. And one thing to remember is that ultimates do not charge nearly as quickly in this game, so in Overwatch 1, maybe already getting close to the blade, right now only at 50%. I think the biggest thing right now is if you're TNS, you gotta protect Andrew, you gotta protect your President, your Ana, make sure that they are not being dove by this Doomfist, by this Reaper that's on the other side, because that is your main source of healing as well as your main source of utility, but not even having to worry about that right now. Andrew just chilling out on that high ground.
You know, it's been interesting. A lot of the picks have come in early for TNS on the DPS, so they seem to be going straight for the head almost, as it were, with these teams. We're going to see a Pizza Lawyer pick out quite a few members, and TNS will win the second round fairly convincingly. Rather, second fight.
Yeah, what's crazy about that, though, is that Titan had gotten all the eliminations up until those last two from Pizza Lawyer, so this Genji putting in a lot of work, and yet these ultimates, they're equal to DPS ultimates, they're almost there. In Hour Zero, they got nothing to work with. This is already at 50% captured for TNS. If they're smart enough, they can just rotate their ultimates one by one. I mean, it could be a Nano Visor, it could be a Nano Blade, it could just be a Nano Monkey, it could be a Nano Lucio. We've seen that a few times. There's so many options.
Yeah, there really are, but Titan gonna start things out again with a pick onto Mikan. No sound barrier going to be built up for them just yet. Viral finally breaking the shutout, as it were, taking Andrew out of the equation before they were able to get that Nano online as well. So TNS gonna be forced to use the Tac Visor and the Primal Rage to try and win this fight, and that is exactly what they are doing, Jack.
And they're also getting some stackers right now. There's still this Reaper Viral on the point. Has a Death Blossom, but isn't going to be able to even use it because they end up falling. But that Coalescence, it's getting them back into the fight. The question is, do they have enough members there? There's a Nano that's still available.
That Nano is still available and likely going to be committed, I would imagine, to Titan when they get back to the fight. But point going to be flipped over in favor of Hour Zero. They will get their first possession, frankly, right at the 0 hour.
Yeah, right at the last minute, right? I mean, we're gonna make a lot of puns probably like that. I mean, good news is that there is DPS ultimates for Hour Zero. There's also a sound barrier actually not too far away. So really, it's about Mikan staying alive, getting that online to avoid getting wiped off by this Nano Blade.
We're gonna see the Tac Visor committed by Otter, but the Nano Blade from Titan already doing work, taking Viral out of the fight before they can get that Death Blossom online once again. Andrew taken care of. That's one support down from each side. Make it 2 for TNS. Hour Zero with just 3 members left. Looks as though they are primed to take this next fight.
Wait, hasn't been flipped yet, so it's still in possession of Hour Zero. They have not won this cleanly. In fact, Traincloud, or not Traincloud, excuse me, Tricky Zero just gonna fall off the map. So Traincloud is the one who makes it happen. So it looked like the picks were going towards TNS, but Hour Zero able to stabilize, able to stay alive, able to keep that Death Blossom. Now going to a Sombra, probably trying to get some hacks, and hack has been completely reworked, so your abilities will be back a lot quicker, but you're much more vulnerable to the Sombra DPS, but it's Exalted that falls first.
Viral gonna follow them shortly after that. It's gonna be several picks either way, but Hour Zero with 2 players, as is TNS. Tricky Zerg, the last one standing. Traincloud and Mikan look as though they're gonna be able to push them back with relative impunity, and now we're heading into last fight territory here, Jack.
We are, and the Death Blossom still there. The Coalescence is almost back online. Visor not too far away. And Andrew's actually gone for the Mirror now, so they're going to go for a Mirror of their own, but not anywhere near that Coalescence. No anti to deny the potential healing from the Coalescence coming out from the other side either. So Desperation Swap, we'll see if it works out.
It's going to be Tricky Zerg jumping in, opening things up for Pizza Lawyer to get a kill. Viral tries for the Death Blossom, but unable to find any value from it. And now Tricky Zerg trying to boop Traincloud into some cars. They're able to do exactly that. 99% on the board for Hour Zero. This is last fight territory, no matter which way you cut it. Jag. It's going to be Andrew coming up with some big kills on that last moment Mora swap, and with that, they come away with the point. Otter going to try and stagger things out. Here comes Aramori with the Coalescence. They're going to have to do their best to survive, but a lot of damage coming into them. Titan eventually able to get that kill on board. One more member from Hour Zero on point. Here comes a sound barrier and a Dragon Blade. That's going to seal the deal for TNS and give them the first round.
But what a close first round it was. It looked like TNS was going to run away with that for just a little while, and then all of a sudden, Hour Zero, they battle back. They make it super, super close, and I think the key moment there was Aramori falling with that Coalescence. Having it in that it was kind of just one like long last fight, but having it at the beginning of that fight, if they did not fall, I think that would have really had a big advantage of turning the tide. Not, it wasn't the end all be all, might have not been enough, but coming in with it at the very end, just kind of trying to stall out and get everyone back was not going to be enough in that case. And one thing I've been really interested about so far is Soldier actually got nerfed pretty recently on the live patch, which this is being played on. Soldier just got buffed today again, so I thought maybe, just maybe, teams would go for a bit of a different look. They're not trying that, but one thing to note is that they are going for the Baptiste now for Hour Zero. He just got bapped. He just got buffed quite a bit, and maybe a few people will get bapped because of that.
They certainly could. We're going to see Viral come out, though, with a Mayball. Going to try and isolate Tricky Zerg, but they just jump over without any damage coming into them. Can't say the same for Train Cloud, though, as they're taken out of the fight. Viral picks off more than they can chew, and TNS will come away with this first point possession.
That seems like another first fight one. I just really want to quickly go into what that Baptiste buff is, just so everyone's aware of it. Bap's regenerative burst now, instead of doing 100 over time, it's 50 immediately and then another 50 over time. So it almost works like an Immortality Field where it can save someone right away, maybe in tandem Immortality Field. However, in that last fight, again, just Titan slicing and dicing, help get those first eliminations. Those antis, they have just been so good for Andrew. Those 3 people that were anti, they don't find any eliminations off of it, but it stalls out more time for TNS to just capture on the point.
Yeah, it creates a lot of space for them, and Tricky Zerg able to take advantage of that. They're going to jump back towards their team to get healed up after taking a bit of damage. Now it's going to be Hour Zero trying to keep everybody from TNS from pushing on the point. That Mayball doing just that. Tricky Zerg taken out of the fight, but so is Adar, and now more of the members of TNS trying to push onto point right now to gain a little bit of purchase, but Aramori pops the Ant Matrix. That's going to keep them back and at bay for just a little while, as is that Mayball once again, but they are eventually able to push all of the members of TNS off point with several picks and take this point.
And not only did they get the fight win, but they also actually capture the point before the fight really ends. So that's extra time on the clock for them, and it's captured a lot sooner than it was on the last round of Oasis, which means more time for them to hold on to this, potentially build up ultimates, and they really need some more ultimates because right now TNS has almost everything online. It could be an entire ult apocalypse, all 5 ultimates at their disposal, but it's going to be a Blade as well as a Blizzard to try to shut down this Dragon Blade.
And it's going to barely freeze Titan. They are booped out of it at the last moment, but there's no more Blade left to use. Train Cloud going to be able to find Pizza Lawyer and Andrew. Without those 2 players, TNS is really in a tough position, but they do scramble back for a couple more kills. Now they're going to find Adar as well. And what looked like a pretty strong hold for Hour Zero has dissipated now into just about nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there is just this Lucio trying to hold it down for as long as possible. That passive field might actually make this stall more obtainable. All right, so still 4 percentage. It also means they're still alive, so, I mean, Train Cloud is traded out. This fight just continues on.
It does, but the point has slipped over in TNS favor now. Hour Zero able to get many of the members of their team back. It's going to be a nano boost now committed onto Tricky Zerg. That's supercharged. Tesla Cannon doing a lot of work, taking Aramori out of the fight. Once again, Viral with another really nice Mayball. The Mayballs coming out from Viral have been very, very impactful this game, and we saw it just there as TNS wasn't able to push forward and try and get any stagger kills. It's going to give Hour Zero an opportunity now to regroup and try and come back in.
You know what's really scary? It's not just a nano monkey, that's a nano sniper monkey. They got range now, and it did get buffed recently, so a little bit less expensive ammo-wise, a little bit more powerful to actually throw out. And that sleep on a Train Cloud means that they are completely out of the engagement for a little bit. No ultimates for TNS just yet. That Meteor Strike's going to be forced out, and that's going to be a Visor.
That Visor already finds one of its targets, Andrew, but Tricky's are able to remove them relatively quickly. It's not going to be enough, though, as Viral finds someone with a nice icicle to the head. Point flips back over in favor of Hour Zero.
Yeah, it's interesting. They use the sound barrier there. Mikon decides to commit it in a fight that was already won when the point was already flipped in their direction. Really wanted to close it out, but that's going to be an ultimate they're going to miss as Visor as well as Dragon Blade are coming up. They do have the May Blizzard, which I think I accidentally called Blade earlier, just in the excitement of seeing Titan pull out their own Blade, but Blizzard could be another way to shut this down, just freeze them up or AoE them out, but it's going to be the sound barrier that's used first by Exalted.
They're going to be able to use that to help Titan stay alive during all of this. The May Blizzard going to committed towards the tail end. That's going to allow Viral to get the pick onto Titan. Hour Zero coming away with several picks, but TNS strikes back. Pizza Lawyer with the attack Visor does a little bit of damage. Now it's just going to be Tricky Zerg on point, but they have to back out at the last moment because they're taking just so much damage. Train Cloud in good for another pick. This is now scramble time for TNS. 99% on the board. Overtime starting to tick over slowly. Andrew can't touch point because of the May wall, but Exalted able to get there instead. Tricky Zerg does find Mikan. That forces out the coalescence from Aramori. That's going to be a lot more pushing power now from our Zero. Both tanks are out of the fight right now. It's just the DPS and support trying to make something of this. Overtime continuing to click over. Viral has to go into their ice block. That means when she comes out of it, they're going to be very, very vulnerable to attack. They eat an anti-nade as well, going down incredibly low. Pizza Lawyer able to get the picks. It's going to be now Tricky Zerg on the wrecking ball just to get back the point as fast as they can. Deacon takes out Pizza Lawyer. Train Cloud finds Andrew, though. That is huge. Now it's up to Exalted to try and keep their team alive. But he's getting chased down into the depths of this map on Oasis, not allowing him to continue on. Tricky Zerg now spinning to win on that point as long as they can. They have to drop down to the mega health pack, but I don't think that's anywhere to be found. Sound barrier now committed from Mikan as well. Neither of these teams want to give up point, but it is going the way of our Zero at the moment. Overtime almost ticks over a couple times. Can anyone get back from TNS? They're being CC'd to oblivion. Train Cloud with a couple of picks as well. TNS just not quite able to gain hold of this point once again, and that will even up the score.
Wow, what a fight. And, you know, we're used to this on some control maps. They just go on for what feels like an eternity, but with one less hero to stall with, that felt like it was really going on for ages. We also saw so many swaps. Sojourn, Wrecking Ball, Symmetra. It just seemed like it was going to keep on coming, but at the end of the day, just too much stopping power from our Zero. 2 meteor strikes in the span of a minute and a half from Trading Cloud really helped solidify their hold on that point. They get the round, they force a round 3, and now it all comes down here to Gardens. See who will take this first map. It is a 1st to 2. There is a lower bracket, so you lose here. It's not the end of your journey. You don't want it to be like that this early in the tournament, so getting this first map here makes it one step closer to moving on. We'll see who takes it all, as we see essentially the same exact comp. Otter on the Sombra again. We saw this briefly on the first rounds of Oasis. Didn't really pan out too much.
No, they're able to get a little bit of chip damage in, but not too terribly much, as most of the members of TNS able to drop back and put a lot of damage into Otter. Now we're going to see this high ground fought over, but it's going to be TNS who takes advantage of it first. Deacon tries to jump up there, but unable to. Train Cloud, though, coming in huge on the Doomfist with 3, make it 4 picks. That will give the point over to our Zero, and this is the first time they've come away with possession first.
Yeah, first time for everything, and it might be enough to help them just take this map completely. One of the most important stats is if you capture this first point, or I guess the first capture on the point, you will have a much better chance at winning this outright. So we'll have to see if they can hold on to it just as well. I like this high ground positioning, and Train Cloud, I mean, has really come online, I feel like, in the last round in particular, already at 90% to their ultimate, or very close to it.
Yeah, that's huge, especially considering, you know, like you mentioned, just how slow these ultimates now charge. It's going to be a couple picks in favor of our Zero right off the bat. Here comes the Meteor Strike from Train Cloud. They're going to use it aggressively to see if they can get one more pick, see if they can stagger some of these members out, but not going to be on the menu today, at least at the moment.
No, absolutely not. We'll have to see how things end up. And I mean, you're already 50%. You don't have ultimates. You're really struggling to find a target. I think that's the big thing. They're going to try to see if they can get this soldier out, and oh, so close. They finally get it. That's what they need. Sound barrier being used in the meantime.
Yeah, that's going to allow them to push a lot more aggressively. Titan finding several kills, and with that, TNS will handily take control of this point, but already 60% on the board for our Zero.
And the sound barrier there might not be as expensive because the blade isn't that close by. There are ways to avoid the visor with the bubble potentially, so I get the idea of using it there, and then they're just continuing to go in. Like, they are trying to spawn camp at this point. They do not want to give any room or space. They will have to back out after using the primal rage, but we'll have to see if they get pushed back into.
They're gonna try and do that with a coalescence, going to Aramori, giving a lot of space to her team, but the attack visor and the blade coming out from both DPS for TNS is going to be a lot to try and deal with. Mikan does drop the sound barrier. That's going to allow them to sustain through a lot of this, and in fact, give an opportunity for Viral to get their attack visor online, but it's not going to be enough to flip things in their favor as the members of TNS continue to pound away at our Zero and win this fight.
pounding away. I think that's the best way to describe it after what's happened here. They're trying to stagger out Train Cloud. Not going to be easy when you can just, get out of there with the Seismic Slam. That Seismic Slam is crazy. Now you can just jump out like to Primal Leap, essentially, with all of the ways you can use it. But I think the big thing is, like, Hour Zero, they swap now to the Reaper. They don't really have anything besides the Blade. Exalted used that Sound Barrier. We talked about that. It's back online already. They also have a Coalescence that they could use to try to deter it. So there's so many ways to just avoid this Blade. I'm not sure if Otter's going to get the value they're looking for, but they're going to try.
Exalted going to get that Sound Barrier. Never mind, almost online, but I believe they were stunned out of it or something at the last moment, possibly by Train Cloud. It's going to be Andrew try to use their Coalescence as well. Unfortunately for TNS, that's going to allow them to win the fight.
Yeah, I think they were punched out of it, but still,
I think so.
It's enough, right? That's what I was saying. Like, they could try to combo it just to really make sure this Blade doesn't get the value it needs. At the end of the day, they're still holding on to the point. It's last fight territory. Train Cloud's going to have to touch sooner than later. And there's going to be the Meteor Strike. It doesn't land, and they're so weak, already down their main support.
Yeah, Train Cloud with just a sliver of health. They're going to be taken out. Aramori has the Coalescence. They're going to be forced to use it now in a last-ditch effort to try and hold on to this point. But there's going to be Attack Visor that's just going to do too much damage. That's going to be overtime ticking over. Just one member left for Hour Zero to try and hold on, but it's not going to happen. And TNS takes this first map and our first to two.
And what a crazy first map it was. I mean, if the rest of the series goes like this, which it could, because push is actually going to be the next map type, we could be in for a map 3. We could be in for a very elongated overtime push on push. There's so many things that, Overwatch 2, we just don't know yet. We see what's being done in Overwatch League, but there's still so much experimenting to be done here. It's also a different patch, like we've talked about before. So this patch, heroes are a bit different. Like, I'm still surprised we're seeing so much Soldier. I think Sojourn actually could be a better option at this point. We just haven't tried her enough yet. Most teams probably have been practicing these comps for at least a week or so. So they probably don't want to make these last-second swaps. But that was just so crazy. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, that last round, a little bit less close. I think it was like 99 to 50 when it was all said and done. But still, the other two, 99, 99, 99, 95, I think. So very, very close.
Yeah, they really are. And, it's going to be up to Hour Zero now to try and adapt to what they're seeing coming out from TNS. The adaptation, I don't think, has to be large, right? Just has to give them enough of an edge. And maybe you're right. Maybe bringing Sojourn out could be the answer. Swapping the legs for the thighs.
I think, honestly, just get rid of Doomfist. I think that, we've seen a few teams really try to make Doomfist work, and I think Doomfist in a lot of situations can work, but I just find it so much harder for most teams to play around a Doomfist because Winston gives you security. Doomfist can only protect themselves. They do have that forward block where they can absorb damage. I think it's like 90% of damage is absorbed, and then it empowers their Rocket Punch. But it's just not the same as the Winston bubble. It's not going to be nearly as good for the whole team. And I feel like Doomfist sometimes it's just harder to play off of. I mean, you get the punch, but sometimes they can actually knock the person you're trying to go for out of the way in a way that they could survive. Winston does have that Primal Leap. It's a little bit of a boop when they land. But other than that, I mean, for the most part, I guess if they do go for the Primal Rage, that's a whole different story. But in general, engaging with Winston is just so much simpler. And it's something that's similar to Overwatch 1, so teams don't have to adapt to it nearly as much.
You're right, and the burst potential now that Winston has, I think, is tremendous, right? We saw that a little bit in Overwatch 1, right, with the jetpack landing plus the melee. But now you've got that extra laser zap that you can get in before that, right? Instead of just the Tesla cannon tickling you on the way down. No, you can burst them with that laser beam, which was just buffed as a matter of fact. So I think, not only is there the fact that you've got the Winston bubble, which is so valuable to the team, but Winston, I think, just in general, has more pick potential than Doomfist, even despite the way that the characters were built.
Yeah, I was talking about that actually earlier, I believe, during that second round about how Winston does have that long range kind of. I was joking. I was calling him Sniper Winston. It's more like mid-range Winston, but still, that's something that you didn't have before. So you can just kind of sit back in your bubble. It's not like the world's greatest amount of damage, but that's never really what Winston's been about. It's never been about that instant burst. It's always been about cleaving down your opponent with your DPS. So getting that one shot in, maybe that enables your Genji, your Tracer to go in for the dive, and then you follow up next. So there's just so many possibilities beyond just like the OG Winston play. Now there's, a little bit more range to it. So there's a lot of things that can be done. It looks like we do have our next map in, and I mean, there's only two choices, so it was either this or we're going to go to Toronto. It's going to be Rome. So, I find this interesting because I feel like this map has a lot more kind of tight corridors than Toronto for the time being, at least. I find this much better for certain picks, like the Sojourn, actually. I feel like Sojourn can work here because there's a little bit less high ground to worry about, or at least it's more accessible for everyone. In Toronto, I feel like sometimes you really need someone like a Reaper to teleport away or something along those lines. So this was our Zero's pick, and we do see them bring out the Winston, so this is something they can do. And this is basically Shadow Dive. Oh my goodness, this is Winston Brawl.
Yeah, it is. Now, you know what's interesting to me, Jag, is right before they made this pick, I was going to say that if you're going to play Doomfist somewhere, it should be here because there's so many more tight quarters, like you were saying, so many walls, especially when compared to Toronto. But you know what? They're going for, like you said, this Shadow Dive, this 6-man dive competition, which is going to be just a much different look, especially when compared to TNS. I'm excited to see how this is going to play out as both of these teams meet and start to brawl it out. Traincloud doing a lot of cleave damage. It's going to be Andrew hacked in the back line as well. They're getting pushed from two fronts, and that's going to lead to TNS falling first. Tricky Zerg down to just a sliver of health once again. They have to back off, and they don't have anyone but Exalted to help heal them up. So the bot goes under the control of Arrow Zero first.
Remember, Sombra stays invisible with hacking, so she can just get behind where the Ana is, go for the hack, then everyone else dives in, completely just wipes her off the face of the earth, and that's what you want to do. I mean, the Ana is kind of the main staying power in this comp, so once that's gone, there isn't much work. Now they've actually gone to the Moira probably to avoid that.
Yeah, the survivability going to be much higher on that Moira. One pick for either side, but it's going to be Viral who breaks that stalemate, leading to just a trouncing from our Zero.
Yeah, we're gonna see that trouncing continues. I mean, this is what you need, especially after what happened on the last map. It was so close, but having this good start. Push a lot of the time, actually, you don't even play on the point, I've noticed. You just kind of play around it, and then once you win the fight, you get the objective moving. But the fact that they've consistently had it moving since they got that initial cap is so good, and now they're just going in with the Coalescence.
We're going to see the sound barrier committed by Exalted. That's going to allow them to sustain through it, but now they've got to deal with Traincloud, now primaling them back to spawn. Not sending them there by way of death, but literally just pushing them back in there. Traincloud going to find Exalted as well, doing a phenomenal job with the primal rage on this Winston. Really have to compliment them on that play.
Yeah, they just completely get that visor to the back of spawn by Viral. And they open up with a Blossom of their own, as well as the sound barrier. So again, like, these fights, they're not ending necessarily cleanly. They just continue to go on and on and on, and it's not super surprising considering that Overwatch 2 does feel a little bit scrappier at points. But that push bot continues to move, and once they get this capture in just a few moments, they're going to get a better spawn, which means it's going to be a lot easier for them to get back into the fight. It looks like it'll be there in just a moment.
I think that TNS is going to try and engage right before that happens. They will, in fact, touch it. It's going to be Titan with the blade, letting it loose just now. Going to see if they can avoid the hack, which has already gone on to their main tank. They're trying to slice and dice through the T, but unable to find the picks. Tricky Sword finally burst down Traincloud. They get possession of Pushbot, and they will finally be able to start pushing their own.
They finally get possession of it. They do have to avoid this EMP, though. EMP does a significant amount of damage, 40% equal to their health pool at the time it's launched, so this could actually be very deadly. Coalescence is online for Andrew. Could try to use it as a counter, but there's the EMP.
EMP gonna come out. Andrew pops a Coalescence immediately. It's not gonna be fast enough to save Pizza Lawyer. Still several members of TNS Hack. They're taking so much extra damage. Both DPS down and out of the fight. The most now that TNS can hope to do is stall this out for as long as possible and see if they can get some respawns back in for the next fight.
Installing here really doesn't do that much because that bot is going to move really, really quickly compared to where it last ended, just to get back to that point of where they actually ended up pushing it. So it's already there basically as I finish that sentence.
Yeah.
So, you know, at this point, stalling in this kind of game mode doesn't do you that much. It does maybe get an ultimate out of Traincloud as they're pressured out a little bit, but they should be able to get back to their team, and yeah, even help with an elimination along the way.
Yeah, with Pizza Lawyer out of the fight, things are looking rough for TNS. Tricky Zerg gonna try and swing things the other way with a Primal Rage, but Traincloud is just in their backline consistently. It's gonna be Viral who does fall right before they get that, get their ultimate online. Exalted pops the sound barrier as well. Titan now using that focusing beam to try and do a lot more damage, but unable to really find a pick as they get hacked and are forced back to the comfort of their own team. Now we're going to see another push coming in from TNS. They're looking. They find the pigs. Viral, though, with the Death Blossom. Finds one, but that's all they're going to get. Otter comes in to try and finish things off, though, onto Titan. They have several picks. They're going to get this push bot moving forward, but how far is the question?
I still have that forward spawn. That's one thing to consider. So there is a good chance they actually get back to this engagement much quicker than TNS gets to. They do have a sound barrier they could try to throw, and EMP is not too far behind. Pizza Layer has to go for this Death Blossom really soon. Now that sound barrier's been used, this is the perfect time to try to go for it once it wears off.
We're going to see the EMP coming. It's only going to catch Exalted, but with Andrew out of the fight already, TNS has been crippled at the knees. Pizza Lawyer wisely, I believe, hangs on to the Death Blossom as there wasn't much of an opportunity to turn that fight around.
Yeah, once you lose one or two members, it's done. It was definitely the smarter play to save it. Now you got it for this one, but they're running out of time. I mean, 3 minutes does feel like an eternity sometimes in a game like Overwatch, but honestly, of how far this I guess the push bot has been pushing, there is going to be very few opportunities for them to be able to match this up. Death Blossom going to be thrown in with the Coalescence. They go off the map.
Oh my gosh! Do they get the TP back? No, they don't! They weren't able to get any picks with that Death Blossom, and in addition, lost their footing due to Train Cloud primaling them off. Now it's going to be Tricky Zerg seeing if they can do the same thing to the other team. They've got, I believe, 2 practically. They are able to get Mikan, but Train Cloud able to jump back up. Titan now with a primal as well off that duplicated Winston. Trying to create just as much space as possible to allow their team to come away with a pick. They do find Aramori, but that's going to be it.
Don't have the push bot in their control just yet. Now they get it, and again, push bot does move very quickly. We're not actually pushing the barrier, but I mean, it is just such a long distance to go. They have a sound barrier. I do like the swap to Echo. I think that's one thing that I've really liked. We've seen a few teams try in Overwatch League where essentially she's not going to be pocketed, but she's going to kind of just do what she wants, fly over, get those sticky bombs, and go for a focusing beam after. And I do think this has been more effective than the Genji that we saw earlier on this map in particular, because you're going to be much less at risk. If you dash in, you know, you're gone, but with the flight ability that Echo has, they can get out of harm's way a lot easier.
Nice sound barrier from Exalted to allow their team to push forward much more. Titan going to be hacked, though, briefly. Pushbot now starting to come around this first corner here for TNS. Train Cloud trying to do a lot of damage in the background right now. Viral with another Death Blossom, and that nets 3. Hour 0 will take the Pushbot back under their control, and Jag, there's just over a minute left for TNS to try and make something happen.
Yeah, and I mean, they've got to make something out of nothing, it feels like right now. They don't really have that much to work with. They have a Primal Rage. They are close to another Death Blossom, but hopefully it doesn't go the way it went last time. Sound Barrier could counter it, as well as an EMP if it's timed right. I do believe it will cancel the Death Blossom outright, so Otter could go for aggressively here, or could just wait as a counter to try to get ultimates offline for TNS. It's getting really dire now. The good news for them is they do win this fight. Overtime goes on indefinitely until one team wins. So with that EMP down, looks like they could go for a Death Blossom after, and there it is.
Death Blossom going to try and find some value, but Mikad uses that sound barrier, the coalescence in from Aramori as well. She's doing a great job backing up their main support. That's going to allow them to sustain through that Death Blossom. Both Reapers out of the fight now. It's an even playing field as much as it can be. Train Cloud has to drop back to their team. That gives more momentum now for TNS, but Titan gets caught out right before they get the duplicate as well. That is devastating for TNS. Now they've just got to try and sustain as long as they possibly can. Overtime starting to fall down. It's going to be Pizza Lawyer there to touch the point right before their main tank, Tricky Zerg, can get back into it. It's going to be Aramori falling as well. That's going to give an advantage to TNS, but they have to win, what, 3 fights, I think, here in a row in order to take this map? That's going to be a very tough ask.
Could be more because of that forward spawn, which won't go away until they get that first capture point. They're not even halfway there. They're like 1/4 to getting there right now. This could be a very long overtime push if TNS wants to put this away. Good news is that they do have that duplicate, like you said. It wasn't online before, now it is, so could use that as desperation, or maybe just get the game-winning or fight-winning ultimate that they need online at a moment's notice. But that engagement's coming in quick. The Death Blossom, it's gonna find one.
That it is. Pizza Lawyer out of the fight. They were getting close to their Death Blossom as well. Now it's going to be up to Titan to try and find the ideal duplication target for the situation. Exalted down and out. There goes Andrew as well. Pieces of the puzzle are falling apart for TNS. Hour 0. They are primed to equalize the overall score line in this match, taking it 1-1 and bringing us to a final map 3.
And the sound barrier as a victory salute. And this seemed like it was just all Hour Zero the entire time. Control very back and forth. Here, Hour Zero, they take that first spawn point and they never give it up. They never give TNS enough room to breathe. They run a different composition. They go to the Winston. That's one thing you and I were hoping they would do. And look at how well it ended up working out for them. I will say Doomfist, I think a situational can work better on some maps, just like Zarya can. But I think in general, Winston has kind of been the go-to tank. And here, they make the swap, and it works out so well. And we are going to that third and final map tiebreaker. I mean, I think there is potential where a map 4 could happen with a tie. Very, very unlikely, as I do believe the next map type is Escort. But I have seen it happen. It is possible to tie on Escort once you get to that point capture. But then you can't move the card at all. It has happened to me in comp, so I know it's a thing. But in general, this is probably going to be our last map. And, I think one of the most fun things about this being the last map type is that this is actually the biggest map pool of any map type in the game at 4 right now because of that addition of Midtown.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, I'm wondering if we are going to see Midtown. I'm not entirely sure, how
It's
teams...
Circuit Royale, not Midtown. I just baited you there. It's
Circuit Royale. Circuit Royale. No, you're
hybrid,
absolutely right. Yeah. Circuit Royale. So, my question is, do these teams feel confident enough to take Circuit Royale as their pick, right? To me, there's a lot of risk and reward there, because I think if you go to Circuit Royale, then you're betting on the fact that maybe the other team isn't quite as well versed in it as you are. So I could see this being kind of a clutch pick for TNS if they feel confident on it.
I feel like a lot of these maps, honestly, are very strong for Widowmaker. We've only seen her a few times in Overwatch 2, but it's basically been on all of these maps. Circuit Royale especially has been a Widowmaker haven because there's just so many great sight lines. There's less shields to worry about. We've seen a lot of Sigma play there. So you really need to have a strong Sigma player, someone who's confident. I mean, we have seen Winston as well, but I feel like Sigma's kind of been the name of the game there than any other map. But then the other options, Dorado, Route 66, Watchpoint Gibraltar, still all work for Widowmaker. I think especially we've seen a lot of Widow on Route 66 and Dorado. To mixed results, I will say, in the Overwatch League, but you might as well try it because Widowmaker, if you're on fire, you get those one taps, fully charged shot. That's going to take out most squishies right away. I think the biggest question mark for me is Watchpoint Gibraltar because that is one of the hardest maps to crack as an attacker. That second point,
Yeah.
I feel like has become 1,000 times harder now with one less tank to contest high ground. When you only have one tank that has to protect the team, has to try to get back for the supports if they're in danger. Like taking high ground really isn't even a choice. You have to force the fight on cart. I'm thinking especially in second point where it's hangar. I mean that has always been just a defensive haven, but so I feel like that's probably the least likely map we'll see. But this is TNS's pick, so who knows? This could be a wild card that we see come out here.
Well, they are going to surprise you because it is, in fact, going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar that we go to. So, you know what? I think given what you just said, to me, that means TNS has something up their sleeve here, right? They either know that they've got just a stranglehold on that second point, like you were mentioning defensively, or maybe a Widowmaker in their pocket who can just make life incredibly difficult for those squishies. It's going to be Hour Zero on defense first, and just like you thought might happen, we do have the Widowmaker.
Yeah, Brigitte as well, so not too surprising. Still has a lot of AoE healing, but her shield bash does not give a stun anymore. Instead, just knocks them back a little bit. I think actually Brig is in a pretty good spot, even though she's not played a lot right now. I think Pizza Lawyer is going to go for the Sim teleport directly across it, so everyone can take the high ground, and then go probably to a Reaper or something like that. So we're not going to see the Sim pick last very long. It's really a defensive game right now. Hour Zero, how long can they hold out for, and how much can they hold out for? Because then they have to swap onto the attack and then see if they can match it or do better. So playing this high ground going to be the name of the game on basically every point, I think, except for third. Third, you usually play a little bit more around corners on low ground. And a lot of the times teams just let this cart roll underneath, and then they look for the fight after that. And looks like that's essentially what's happening. Neither team really even looking at the card as it makes a little bit of progress.
It's going to be a dive now from Tricky Zerg up to that high ground, try to create a little bit of space for their team to start to push forward, but instead all they find is death for both of their DPS. Train Cloud will get slept. That's going to allow the rest of the members of TNS to back off, but very convincing first fight for Hour Zero, and oh my gosh, they get the stagger onto Andrew.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Andrew Ana play, and I really wanted to see it from Aramore because she is one of the better Anas, honestly, in the tier 2.5, tier 2 scene. She's been on a lot of different teams. Mochi, I think one of the more recent ones. So I'm glad to see her finally off of the Moira onto this Ana. That was a big anti-nade that really helped open up that fight. If they lose their soldier, they lose Viral, which means this is a 5v4 in favor of TNS with that spawn advantage, and now they are making a lot of progress, not only with the car, but also on this high ground.
That they are. It's going to be tricky. So they're trying to take control of Blue Box, but look at that. 4 members right there trying to hold back one Winston. It's going to be Traincloud dropping actually down to the cart to try and contest that because Titan has just been moving it forward. But now Traincloud caught in the middle of just about everything, taking fire from every direction. And with no shield left, they're going to have to use this Primal Rage in just a second. Cart getting very close to completion here. They have to drop back at the last moment. Going to be Andrew, though, taken out of the fight. Aramori has committed this Nano Blade, or this Nano as well. Traincloud just booping people away left and right. This point will be successfully defended by Hour Zero.
Successfully defended. It's not too costly in the grand scheme of things. 2 ultimate, sure, but you're about to have everything else online. Infrasights, Visor, Rally. So it's not too bad. Oh, this could be huge if they get Viral again, especially with that Visor. But Viral this time able to run away with those legs being locked. TNS, they have some ultimates too. I would be very surprised if they didn't do a Nano Visor here. I feel like Nano Visor is a more sure thing than Nano Blade. But actually, no Nano at all yet. I think they are going to just go for the Nano Blade after the rally ends.
Yeah, that seems like a wise decision right there, but they're not going to be able to as both parts of the Nano Blade have been eliminated. Hour Zero will successfully defend one more time.
Yeah, Otter wins the 1v2, goes against the Genji and on the other side, and lives to tell the tale at least long enough to secure those kills. And with that being shut down, TNS, they're going to go back to the drawing board, but it's almost a victory in a way because they get Hour Zero to use so much, and now they have this winning combination, and really the only thing that can shut it down right now is a Sleep Dart. So Aramori is going to have to go big or go home with that. Hopefully they can land it for their team's sake, because if they don't, they should be able to secure this first point for TNS.
And here comes the Blade. They're going straight after the supports, but the sleep is there from Aramori. Exalted coming in to try and help their teammate out, but they eat an anti-nade instead. That's going to lead to both of their demises. 30 seconds left to go now here, Jag, and this is do or die time for TNS.
Yeah, it is, and that was just an unlucky decision by Titan. They chase after Mikon, who was on the Brigitte, instead of going for the Ana. The Ana didn't have sleep for a few moments, and then you turn your back to an Ana like that, and Ana this good, and they're going to sleep you right out of that ultimate. And while all that is going on, the fight continues on the point, and it's being won by Hour Zero. Second point, who even needs it? This might be a first point hold here.
It's starting to look that way. Trickies are going to be able to proc overtime at the last moment there. Titan now on the Tracer, seeing if they can get in and find somebody to pick apart. Traincloud on the point now, diving into the backline, but they get slept. That's a huge moment now for TNS to try something, but they've got a sleeping Winston too. It's gonna be Otter taking out the Immortality Field. There goes Titan, Pizza Lawyer down as well. TNS falling apart at the seams. They do get one exit pick, but the tack visor from Viral gonna be too much, and that will be where the cart stops.
And this is why you don't choose Watch Point Gibraltar, because if you're gonna choose this map, you're not going to get the side choice, and I would always want to choose defense first to establish the tone and the pace, be able to get those holds early and often, and once you get that first point, oh, it is so tricky for the team that just failed to get past it to match your defense. It's not impossible. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could set up on this defense that can enable you to potentially even do better than Hour Zero did, but will they be able to do it? We're going to find out. We haven't seen them play Widowmaker at all, and I think that would be on Pizza Lawyer, who's been playing more of the hit scan role throughout all of this. We'll see if they feel comfortable enough for that long-range sniper. Titan has been just consistently on projectile heroes, so I'd be very shocked if we saw them go that way. Looks like it's going to be a Genji and a soldier, so no Widowmaker. So I feel like Otter just had a lot of free range, and usually I feel like Widowmakers are like Mercies. Either you only talk about them when they're doing something really well or something really wrong, and I'm not going to say Otter had the most pop-off performance of all time, but I feel like they did their job there. They stayed at range, they got picks in fights. That's all you can really ask for. Sometimes you don't have to go for, you know, the huge triple or headshot play in a row, you know, where you get the highlight reel. It's really just about staying at arm's distance and continuing to put down firepower where everyone else can follow up. And that's exactly what happened there. We'll see if they can do it again.
I think we're going to see a boosted Otter as well, as Mikan has swapped over to the Mercy at the last moment. This is very interesting. Train Cloud initially going out on the Hog, but they're backing up to spawn. Likely going to see a swap coming out here as Otter once again trying to find a head initially, but this low ground positioning, very interesting. I don't feel like I've seen this too much from a Widow, but then again, in my Diamond games, it's probably not the norm. So,
a natural cover, right? Like you just can
yeah,
dodge and weave, and then you can get out. And it looks like that's exactly what happens. They just go high ground.
So far, TNS doing a decent job of holding on to things, but Otter's going to open up this situation with a pick onto Titan. Now looking to see if they can find another. They're on top of that water tower at the moment. A very hard place to get them dislodged from. It's going to be up to Tricky Zerg to see if they can get up there. Pizza Lawyer going down to just a sliver of health. And it's going to be Trencloud seeing if they can finish them off. Instead, they find Andrew, which is arguably a bigger pick. Pyro going to be taken out as well, but Andrew going down, definitely more impactful.
Yeah, I think they have to back out of this. I don't think they can really contest this. Only the brick armor packs to try to keep them healed up. You can already see that. I mean, Tricky is just taking so much damage. Isn't a live to tell the tale, at least for the moment. They didn't really try to go for the all-in play. Instead, they take out Titan.
This is starting to look dire now for TNS. They pop the tag visor in response to all of this aggression that's coming in. But Aramori just able to throw in healing with impunity from that mega health pack room. Pizza Lawyer is down to just a sliver of health. They are able to get healed back up by their team, but only for so long. This is TNS falling apart. Hour Zero has the picks. They just need to sustain. They just need to play it smart right here, and this is going to be all theirs. It's just about over 0.15 meters left to go. That's going to do it. Hour Zero continues on in the upper bracket.
What a first series. Remember, this is only winners round 2. This is only just a little sneak peek of what the upper bracket can offer, and yet we're already going the full distance. A 3-map set, and Hour Zero able to take it away. That first map control, it was so back and forth with TNS getting the edge, but it felt like after that it was all Hour Zero all the time. They turned back the clock, and then they made it accelerate in their favor here. Push as well as escort, much more a one-sided affair for them. And I gotta say, they just seems like they're a little bit more diverse in their compositions. Train Cloud going to the Winston, I think, was the first really great step they had to bring it back. But then you saw the DPS choices. They were really picking per map instead of just going for the same standard comp that TNS was bringing out almost every time.
You're right, and I think that says that as Overwatch 2 develops, things are going to be a lot more map dependent, right? You're not going to be able to maybe just run the compositions that you want to, force the issue when you want to, because having that other tank, missing means that the map geometry is going to become that much more substantial, that much more influential, and I think that's a bit of what we saw here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think that's also what we've seen with the new maps that have come out. The geometry of them is very, very different. A lot more open sightlines, a lot more just open space. So these older maps that have a lot more close quarters, the way you played them before is not the way you can play them now. And I think Watchpoint Gibraltar maybe not is maybe not the best example of that, because I feel like it's a lot of the same things, like just blue box strat. Like that's always been the bread and butters. Hold blue box as a defender and then jump to point when you have to. But I think, especially when we saw in that second map, like, I mean, obviously Rome is a new map, but just like the way that was played is kind of more the way that I think new maps and new gameplay will trend to in the future.
I think you're right. It's going to be. I can't wait to see how everything develops for Overwatch 2. It's such an exciting time to be watching Overwatch, to be an Overwatch fan, to be an Overwatch player. But we're going to throw it to a short break. Before we do that, though, I want to give one more shout out to one of our sponsors, and that is Champria GG. Thank you to our sponsor, Champria GG. If you're an analyst, staff member, or player looking to grow your skill in Overwatch, Champria GG is the place where your journey to esports stardom begins. The only platform with match performance analytics for teams, Champria GG is also introducing player-specific performance analytics this month. Head over to the platform, create your team, invite players, start scrimming, and upload your data today. Now, Jag, before we throw it to a break, any final words from you?
And we're going to be seeing a very, very fun match in the next round from what I'm looking at. I'm not going to spoil it just yet because I want to keep it a little bit, a little interesting before we get back from that break. But don't go anywhere, folks, because when we get back from that break, winners round 3 is going to be coming up.
We find ourselves in winners bracket number 3, or round 3 rather, Jag, and we've got an exciting match coming up for us. It's going to be Bearclaw Gaming versus Gaming.
Yeah,
That's not going to be a problem moving forward at all.
that really surprised me when we like got the notification, and I was like, it was the name split accidentally when they were posting the roster sheets, but no, gaming is just gaming. That is all they are. But they're also a well-known collection of streamers and former players. I mean, you got names like Frogger on here from Down Under, previous on Mind Freak Guru, previous on Maryville, Pizza Demon, previous on Upbringing Academy, and then round that out with other names like Warren, a very popular streamer. I mean, this is a pug team for sure, but we've seen pug teams do very well in tournaments like this. And with one less player on the field, we never know how far they can go. It's a lot of very well-known names, but can they put it together to go against a team like Bearclaw that has been together for quite a while?
Yeah, Bearclaw Gaming, no stranger to the tier 2.5, tier 2 scene by any stretch of the imagination. If you've watched any of that kind of gameplay, any of those kinds of tournaments, you've seen Bearclaw Gaming and you've seen them do very well. Lots of well-known names, and one to me that always sticks out is going to be Astronex. Right, Astronex is a phenomenal tank player, really, really great tip of that spear for this team. So I'm going to be looking to them to get a lot of playtime on that tank, and to really be a leader on this team.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, they've been in the previous Natter tournament too, the Community Bash. They got second in the championship division. They played in the last ride that was recently had by Reflash. You know, they've been around the block for quite a bit. I think the biggest thing is that, one, G-Force always seems to be their kryptonite. Whenever they run into G-Force, they just cannot seem to win that matchup. That's a matchup I really want to see later on in this tournament, so hopefully we can make it happen some way or another. But I think the big thing is they lost Zura, who I thought was one of the better Tracer players currently, you know, available, especially in the tier 2 scene. They've added Kendrick now. They've also had a few other roster moves where they've dropped a few players they previously had, but I think that's the biggest one in particular to highlight. So I'm really interested to see if it's Bun or Kendrick who fills that role on DPS for Zero. We're going to see, because I thought Zero was one of the most promising rising stars, honestly. I think, you know, they're not on a team just yet. Hopefully they find one eventually, but I want to see how, you know, it's the same core. You know, it hasn't changed a ton for Bearclaw, but they are changing around a few components, and especially going into a team that's a, you know, more of a pickup team, even those few, you know, alterations can make a whole difference in your play style.
Yeah, they really can. So while Bearclaw Gaming is a familiar name, some of the names of Bearclaw got to be new to a lot of us tonight. So it'll be it's really going to be a lot on them to show up in the way that their predecessors did before, and hopefully show us something new as well. Like you said, you know, these pug teams, we've seen them go pretty far before, but now we're getting into the nitty gritty, right? We're here in winners round 3. If you've made it this far, you've really got something to show us, and right now, I'm really expecting a lot out of gaming.
Yeah, we're going to see exactly what map we're going to start on for the evening here in this winners round 3. We and I already know, but we're going to wait for that graphic to come up to reveal it. I think one thing to note, though, on top of that, is that both these teams coming to this undefeated. Neither have dropped a map just yet, and it's going to be Ilios to start out. So one team will drop their first map, no matter what, here. We're going to see who it is and how this is played out again. You know, Ilios, you know, it's looking very sunny right now, but it's going to be more of a sunset in just a few moments. It depends on what point we get, but I would love to see some more Widowmaker, and I think this is the one for it. It's Ruins. I willed it into existence. I mean, this is just sniper heaven. There's so many great sightlines, and unlike a lot of control maps, it's really just one straight line with a few things on the side, but everything else is just down the middle.
Yeah, it really is. And right off the bat, we see Codebreaker locking the Widow. Now, 20 seconds still in spawn. We're going to see if that actually comes to fruition or not. You know, this is going to Ilios, and in particular going to Ruins first, right? It's going to be a look that I don't think we see in too many other places, right? With this Widowmaker in tow. So this is a really interesting opportunity to get to see something maybe a little bit more unique, a little bit more unusual from both of these teams. It's going to be a Bun, apparently, on the Tracer for Bearclaw Gaming to start things out. So they are going to be the ones filling that gap, filling the those shoes that were left by the previous member of Bearclaw. Both teams now starting to position around the point, wrapping their way to that mega health pack, which can be so valuable to keep control of. Bearclaw Gaming instead opting for this perch over point to start to come in. It's going to be a dive out from Astro next onto the support line, taking down both of them relatively low, but eating an anti-nade in the process as well. They're going to be able to chase down Mercedes, but in the meantime, both DPS for Bearclaw Gaming are out of the fight. Now Codebreaker can have an opportunity to really start to click heads, but they find themselves on point and under the threat of that Tesla cannon from Astro next. That's going to be Gaming coming away with the first control here.
Potentially.
Ooh, maybe.
Still being contested. Astronex drops back in. Pizza Demon gets the nade from downtown. And this is, this is just kind of what Overwatch 2 is, right? It's very back and forth. You never know what's going to be won. But Codebreaker back into the swing of things. They're taking codes and names right now. And it looks like it finally will be going the way of Gaming after a very drawn-out fight. And you're seeing two very different play styles. Mercedes is going to play around Guru. Basically, whenever they go in, you're going to see Mercedes follow in tow to try to get some follow-up damage, but then they leave Codebreaker in the back, just with those sightlines that they want. With Bearclaw, it's kind of everyone collapsing around Astronex, or at least you're hoping they will. You need your Tracer, what was your Tracer, and your Reaper to go, but now they're actually going for the Sombra, and my guess is they're trying to use that to try to shut down the Doomfist.
Yeah, that the Sombra just an excellent tool to do exactly that. Mercedes finds a pick with the Pulse Bomb. Codebreaker now seeing if they can find someone in that window. Not able to do just that, and with Kizaru popping that Coalescence now on point, that's going to give Bearclaw Gaming a lot of presence there as well. They've successfully pushed out many of the members of Gaming and taking Codebreaker out of the fight. Graham, the Reddit Lucio, going into the back there to take them out. But in the meantime, Frogger doing the exact same thing, this time onto a support, which is arguably a little bit more valuable. Guru getting hacked, taken out of the fight right now. Fun, seeming to find a lot of value already on that Sombra, just like you were expecting. And with that, Bearclaw will take the point for the first time.
You're talking about Graham being a Reddit Lucio. I'm pretty sure if you look it up in Webster's dictionary, Frogger's actually going to be the picture you're going to see. So it's definitely going to be a battle of the Lucios here, but it's going to be Bearclaw finally stabilized. I think the big thing is that you're going to actually see Codebreaker swap to the Reaper now, so more similar kind of in-your-face playstyle. They were getting value, but they were getting pressured out near the end, and I think that's why they're swapping. That self-sustain, self-heals, and then give them a lot more utility in these fights, especially if they get dove on.
We're going to see them get dove on just about immediately, having to use Fade to get out of dodge just as quick as they can. Frogger using that sound barrier to give Gaming a little bit more purchase on point. Codebreaker with the Death Blossom, not going to find anything. Astro next there with the shield, and after that, the pieces of the puzzle just fall apart for Gaming, and Bearclaw will continue to keep this point.
And one thing to note about this Sombra hack now is also it does reveal where enemies are through walls for about 8 seconds. So, you know, it's not the same sort of hack you're used to where they're just not able to use their abilities only for 1 second, but they're more vulnerable to Sombra, so she gets a lot more damage over time, and then there's a lot of follow-up. So it's still the kind of team play that you expect for a Sombra, but she does a little bit more DPS, and that's going to be a huge EMP.
That it is. Pizza Demon out of the fight immediately. Guru now on the Diva. D-mech'd and very vulnerable. They're going to be able to take them out of the fight relatively quickly, and Bearclaw is going to push Gaming to last fight territory.
Yep, they are, and Gaming, they get that first fight, but all since then, it's just been Bearclaw. You know, this is the team play, the synergy that we expected. You can see them playing around their Sombra, Astronex diving in. Bun does end up falling there, which actually could be very unlucky, as it's going to give Gaming an advantage for a little bit, or a team fight advantage, a member advantage, but they are going to try to counter that out with the Coalescence.
Pizza Demon already falling though, so things could be going from bad to worse for Gaming. It's going to be a D-Mech coming in onto Guru as well. Bearclaw primed to take this point. They've got the picks in their favor. They've got the map control. A last-ditch effort from Codebreaker to crack things open with a Death Blossom, but that's not going to be on the cards today. Mercedes ducking and dodging as best they can, but with that, Bearclaw will take the first sub-map.
15-player kill streak for Astronex. That's when you know that they're not only doing work, they are staying alive. And, you know, that doesn't initially mean they're doing most of the damage, but the fact that they're able to get in there, get some chip, it'll help their team out, help the DPS, you know, start off those fights. It is a world of a difference. And I think also just those dives, forcing Codebreaker off of the Widowmaker to the Reaper, change that around. Codebreaker, playing well on the Reaper, but just didn't have enough time to build up that Death Blossom until it was the last moment. Everyone had already fallen around them, and as you saw on the point, they get Bun, but that's about all they got there. Bearclaw will take that first round. Now we're going to Well. Lots of boot potential here, and I think that might be why Kendrick's going to the Echo saying, hey, you want to boot me? Well, I'm just going to fly away from that one. Meanwhile, Gaming, sticking with the D.Va. So they tried the Doomfist, and now they're going to the D.Va. Not something you see super often. I think we usually see it only on maps like Dorado. We'll see how Guru makes it work, though.
And in addition, it's interesting. Gaming appears to be doing everything except for the meta, which is to play Winston right now, and that could be one of the biggest advantages that Bearclaw has over Gaming at the moment. Look at this flank from Kendrick. Gonna be able to take out Pizza Demon with the help of Astronex. Now it's gonna be Frogger out of the fight as well. Astronex does go down, but the boop is definitely gonna secure things for Bearclaw.
I swear, the Wraith in this is glitchy because they were in Wraith mode and they get booped. Like, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, Guru, a very talented off-tank player. There's no doubt about that. Has a very storied career in both collegiate and contenders. But off-tank players, I think, got the raw end of the stick on this, honestly. There's a reason why teams usually have a main tank and an off-tank player still, because they're viable on different maps. But Winston player is so important right now. And I think some teams, like the Houston Outlaws, are trying to make it where they can just play Doomfist instead because they don't have a Winston player. And now they're, what, 1-2? Yeah, so you can see how that's going.
Yeah, exactly. Winston really is the most dominant tank right now in Overwatch 2. 33% already on the board. Bearclaw Gaming has a third at this match, or this sub-map 1 right now, and with Codebreaker out of the fight and almost at that Death Blossom, things are looking rough again for Gaming. Guru out of their mechs once again, gonna be drilled on by Astronex with the addition of that sound barrier. Gonna make them so much more dangerous than they already are, but Frogger able to help their team get out of dodge with a little bit of speed boost, taking out another one of the opponents as well.
That sound barrier was forced out because I think it was Astronex that falls super low, so they needed to stay alive to make sure they won that fight outright. It's not something you wanted to use there, they had to. And this hack is going to be so big anyway. The demon
Guru does get the remake kill onto Kizaru, so it's a little bit of an icing on the cake right there. Advantage still on Bearclaw, though, at the moment. Guru going down under a lot of pressure. They get the self-destruct off, but unable to get back into mech in time. And with that, 85% on the board now for Bearclaw. This is last fight for Gaming.
The best part about all of that, Kizaru even says in match chat, he did the thing. Isn't even mad about it. But now we're going to see if Astronex does the thing. A Primal Rage into a very tight space, but they're going to use their support to counter it, so no one's going to fall. It's actually Graham who falls first to the Pulse Bomb.
That is an opportunity for Gaming, one of the very first they've had in this sub-map. In fact, they will turn that into a capture, as Bearclaw instead just decides to back off, regroup with their team. They've got plenty of time to make this happen. The duplicate goes over to Lucio. I think that must have been a mistake, looking for somebody else, but that's what they've got, and that's what they're working with. They're going to be able to get a sound barrier online pretty quickly, and that could definitely help turn the fight. It's going to be Graham who takes Codebreaker out, too, and they have the Death Blossom ready to go. Now Kendrick caught in a very bad place, even after that sound barrier, unable to sustain themselves. Guru now coming forward with the Primal Rage, but the EMP has hit several of their members. They're taking so much extra damage. Guru going down very low. They need to try and find Pizza Demon or Frogger to heal them back up. Mercedes does strike back with a Pulse Bomb. And what a long, drawn-out fight, but in the end, it will go the way of Gaming.
You know what's crazy about all of this, Juggle God? Every time we say, what if they just went Winston, they start winning once they go Winston. And there you go, Gaming. Guru, I mean, does go Winston, gets a really nice Primal, able to take out the duplicated Lucio, and yeah, I've got to agree, I think that was a mistake. And they're just having much better control of this point now. It seems like Bearclaw, they're struggling to find a way, and they will have a Coalescence. There's going to be a Coalescence for Pizza Demon, as well as a Death Blossom.
We're going to have dueling rainbow lightsabers on point, most likely, but Pizza Demon taken out, so that won't be the case, as a matter of fact. Both Moiras falling relatively quickly, but Gaming continuing to have the advantage here. Yeah, even if it is slight.
They still have the ultimate, too. Like, Pizza Demon falls, but it's a trade, and it takes out Kizaru's Coalescence, so you're actually up in ult right now. Astronex is close to the Primal, But beyond that, like, just gaming, if they go really quickly and aggressively with this Coalescence, they are able to take, advantage of the damage it does. They should be able to win this one out and force the 3rd point.
Pizza Demon going to proc, going to use that Coalescence. Astro Next says, Coalescence be damned, I'm diving in on you anyway. Pops the Primal Rage, but look at this, already 2 members down. Nobody to keep Astro Next up and alive. Codebreaker just has an easy job picking them apart. And with overtime ticking over and just a couple of members on point for Bearclaw, this will go the way of the Pugs team gaming.
It's another game, another upper bracket matchup, and another round 3 here on Control. And all these games, like, they've just been so close. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, in what is essentially a new game in a lot of ways. We're really finding a lot of really good competition early on in it. But only one team can win this map outright, and as we go over now to Lighthouse, I think Bearclaw with this Echo, I mean, they tried making it work, and I think the mixed results, I feel like Echo here should actually do really, really well, because a lot of the time you want to set up your supports on high ground. I don't think that's necessarily the case, because the Moira, instead of an Honest, Moira is usually just going to be with the tank, but if you're able to take control of that high ground, especially your opponent's high ground with this Echo, and just kind of spam away from it, get some nice sticky bombs that could be followed up on, this Echo could take control of this map.
We're already going to see them trying to get a little damage from afar, but don't find any targets. First control over this mini health pack room going to go to gaming, and that's a pretty big deal. Although Bearclaw looks instead to want to try and force the issue on point even before it begins to unlock. Kendrick dealing in some damage from above, able to find a little bit now. Mercedes going to go out, Fun winning out that Tracer duel this time around for Bearclaw. Really filling those shoes pretty well, I'd say. Point unlocked right now, but neither team ready to push onto it just yet.
Trades on trades too, and I feel like we've seen this a lot where fights have just opened up and you see 2 people down, but losing Guru might be the bigger loss here, as there's no tank to really stabilize around. They lose Kendrick too, so actually it's gaming, and as soon as I say that, it's another pick. It's 3 on 3.
Yeah, Overwatch 2 is just such a back and forth affair, it seems. It's, you put pressure in one direction, that relieves pressure in another. But Frogger coming in huge right there. The Reddit Lucio might have found himself a clip right there.
One thing to remind ourselves about that we haven't really talked about is the passive healing for support. So that's why you kind of see the desperation of DPS. Like, they go in and, like, they do not stop. They chase until they get that elim, because they know that the next time they see them, it's probably going to be completely healed up, either from their support partner getting there or just the passive healing that they receive.
You're absolutely right. It makes the DPS it makes them play much more greedy right now. Pizza Demon going in with the Coalescence, but it's going to be Mercedes who finds someone with a Pulse Bomb first. Now we've got a fight over in the Mega Health Pack room, but Astro Next has the Tesla Cannon, is able to punch Frogger out of existence as well. They've got the Primal Rage. They can use it when they want to. Coalescence coming in now from Kizaru. They're taking a very, very good position here right now, using their ults very intelligently. The Primal Rage as well, getting a lot of value, able to take Pizza Demon out of the fight. Bearclaw Gaming, this has been a long drawn-out affair, but they've got the advantage. The picks come in their way, and they will take point.
Astrodex's Primal Mechanics, it's just so fun to watch. The way that you just juggle, like, I think a lot of time you think, oh, why not just go for the, environmental elimination? But why do that when you can just knock them into a wall time and time again until they just end up going back to spawn? And they're a huge Primal Rage to help them get the point. Do get the 52% to gaming before all is said and done. And Frogger has the beat. So do they use this defensively or as an engagement tool? Knowing Frogger, I'm going to guess they're just going to go into that at some point, and there they go.
There it is. We're going to see a flurry of aggression coming out from Gaming. That's going to yield 1 kill onto Kendrick. Kizaru doesn't last long either. And with that, Gaming is primed to take this point. Bud going to try and turn things around, but the Pulse Bomb is a whiff this time. Now, Codebreaker continuing their just utter destruction of Bearclaw.
Yeah, and, they get the point for a little bit, but immediately it's turned around. A really nice, aggressive sound barrier. A lot of times that will catch your enemy a little bit off guard, especially the positioning they were in, where everyone just rushed onto them onto the high ground. There was no way to really escape. Really well thought out, aggressive play that helped them win that with. Besides that, very little ultimates. Oh my god, look at Codebreaker in the corner. Death Blossom! They didn't even see it coming.
No, they didn't. Graham goes back to spawn, wondering how that happened. Codebreaker eventually goes down to Kendrick, but there's no way they're coming back in this fight, and now we find them at last fight territory as well.
You know, I was told a long time ago the best advice you could ever get in any game, always check your corners because you never know what enemy is just waiting for you to run by them. That time it's the Reaper. In gaming, they still have 3 ultimates to work with, and they just used 2 of them.
And they've left the point completely wide open. It's gonna be Bun trying to put pressure on it. A pair of picks comes in right now, 1 DPS per DPS, but it's gonna be Kizaru who breaks that stalemate with a pick onto Codebreaker. Now, Bearclaw Gaming has an opportunity to retake this point. They've got the picks that they need, and they will, in fact, find success.
What's crazy about that is that there were 3 ultimates aligned for gaming, and yet they just come out in the wrong order. I was surprised to see the Coalescence as well as the Primal Rage come out at the same time. That might be a little bit of, you know, that miscommunication from them being more of a pickup team, you know, a group of friends maybe just playing together in a competitive setting for the first time, you know, whatever reason there is. You could definitely see that that was not the way it should have gone down, but it did. And the good news for gaming is they're only 1 fight away from winning. But Bearclaw, they're only about 2 fights away now, and their ult bank is looking not too bad. 3 ultimates right now. You use 1 per fight, you win cleanly, it could work out well. Pulsewall not going to find anything, but Guru is fallen.
Yeah, and without that tank, it might be just a signal to back up, because if you take the time to regroup now, you'll get 1 more full fight.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to back up. I mean, both teams do, because Kizaru fell in that engagement as well, so both teams kind of just waiting for the full re-engage. I think there is probably Graham just escorting them back to the point. There it is. This is final fight. This is for all the marbles right here.
Yes, it is, and we're gonna see, oh my gosh, a very aggressive beat coming out from Graham. Kendrick takes out Frogger immediately before they're able to even think about using the sound barrier. Now it's 99 to 99, and gaming in a very unenviable position. Overtime starting to trip over, but Guru pops the Primal Rage. That's enough time for Frogger to get back into the fight and to use the sound barrier. That's going to allow Pizza Demon to get very close to point, and in fact all the way on to Kizaru, going to counter with their own Coalescence now. But taking Kizaru out of the fight is Pizza Demon. Pizza Demon coming in huge for gaming right now, and what looked like it was certainly going to go the way of Bearclaw has in fact turned around and gone towards gaming. It's just Astro next with a little bit of health left on point. Pizza Demon is back to try and make something happen with it, but they're not able to. It's gonna be gaming coming away with the first map win.
I was in complete agreement with you there. I thought that had to be the end of it, right? I mean, it's such a nice Death Blossom, but I think it's the sound barrier on top of it that's kind of the nail in the coffin for Bearclaw. I get it, you want to pocket your Reapers to make sure they're not vulnerable whatsoever, but if you had that for that last engagement, gaming just used 3 ultimates at once, and we said before that was a bit of a oopsie daisy, but in final fight like that, when everyone's on the point, that's the perfect time to use it. So if you had that sound barrier still there to potentially protect your Coalescence, Kizaru got it online, but then ended up falling actually to the Pizza Demon Coalescence that was going on previously. Just think about that extra just protection, that temporary shield could have made a whole just world of difference, and unfortunately they use it at the wrong time and it ends up costing them the map. Good news, the series will still continue on. Bad news, because it's the first of 2. You only got 1 map left to even things up and force a map 3. I mean, this is still the upper bracket, so whatever team loses here still has another lifeline with the lower bracket, but you don't want to fall this early. I say this early, but you don't want to fall at all, really. You want to stay in the upper bracket as long as possible, but there are already some very good teams that have been dropped down to the lower bracket, and you do not want to be one of them.
No, you don't. And, you know, you don't want to have to go up against these teams either. Let's be honest. There's so many great ones there already. So this is going to be very interesting. Now, whoever comes away with the win here is going to go up against Team Burrito, which is a complete unknown to me as well, Jag. But they have already made it to winners round 4. So they've certainly got something special in store for us. But we're going to be headed to Push next. And I'm excited. I love this, and I hope we're going to Toronto, because we got to see Rome last time.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I also just prefer the Toronto map for a lot of reasons. I think it's a little bit more fun to play on. I think there's just a lot more open room that you can use, and I think there's also some more strategic choices you can make, especially contesting that high ground. But we're going to see, you know, what the choice ends up being. It is going to be Bearclaw's choice, so we're going to wait on that decision. But I wanted to look into Team Burrito a little bit too while we had this time, because I believe they're actually the #1 seed in the tournament. If I
Are they really?
Yeah, I believe so. So while we
oh yeah, they are the #1 seed. You're
Well, we
absolutely right.
have
Yeah.
an extra moment to look into it. All right, it looks like it's Rhino's team. So that is a very, I mean, Rhino, Dove, Tree, Rack Attack, Luke Mino, Ice. Yep, there
Oh
you go.
wow.
That's why they're the
Yeah.
number one team
That's the
because that
team.
is
That's
a
the
lot
team
of
right there.
contenders players on it. So yeah, that is not a team you want to face. But
No.
also, it's like this is basically Odyssey. I'm just like looking at it. Like this is like what Odyssey was at one point. I'm pretty sure. So wow, that is one heck of a team you're gonna have to go up with if you win this matchup. So good luck to the team that wins, but I mean, still, you never know what can happen. It's Overwatch 2. It seems like all the rules have been thrown out the window, so you never know who can win
Yeah.
that. And you still like you don't want to drop into the lower bracket. You know, like the later you can do it, the better, because then you have one less round you have to deal with.
Hey, we're going to Toronto. This is great. I'm more than anything, I'm just excited we get to see both maps on broadcast tonight. This is fantastic. So, you know, what's also fantastic, I think, is the story of gaming coming away with the first map win right there. I mean, like you said, this is a Pugs team. Maybe right now what we're seeing is a streamer diff happening. I'm not sure, but I'm here for it and I love it, and I can't wait to see what each of these teams is going to bring here.
And one thing I always talk about is that statistically, Control is usually the map most likely to go to the team that actually ends up losing the series just because of its chaotic nature. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the case anymore. Push is very chaotic, and I feel like, honestly, Push and Control have a lot of similarities in just, like, kind of the more head-to-head style. Like, I mean, sure, there's an objective to play over, but just kind of you're always running into each other versus other map types where as a defender you can set up, or vice versa as an attacker sometimes you can set up. You don't really get those set plays, you know, right? It's
Right.
always just like you're running into the enemy team and hoping for the best. So we'll see who comes out on top in this in first engagement. I think one thing to note is that Guru and Codebreaker, back to who they started on for the beginning of Ilios.
Yeah, this is interesting. They seem to really want to go back to their roots here and try and force the Doomfist, force the Widow. Already, Astronex getting in a ton of chip damage, or significant damage, really, to that backline, but they bite off more than they can chew. They go out of their healer's LOS for just a little too long, and with that, the advantage going the way of the fight, even more so towards gaming.
Mercedes just slicing and dicing there. 2 kills through the dash reset and a nice little capture. And this is something we talked about before. Like, a lot of these fights, they don't happen on the point necessarily. They don't happen with the push bot. They're usually happening around the objective. So there's kind of a great example of that. And now, because of that first fight, when you're going to see Gaming try to set up in this position, the biggest concern now is that Bun is going to the Sombra. This is something I've seen them play quite a bit to mixed results. I feel like the changes to Sombra will actually make this a much better pick overall because you can find a lot of value just on your own. We're gonna have to see if it actually happens. You already see Pizza Demon, they're the target, but they're not the one that falls.
Wow. Bearclaw Gaming just going to fall apart at the seams under the pressure from Mercedes. That fight goes their way practically before it starts, Jag.
Yeah, and I always feel bad because like I'm still talking and I'm like, oh well, they're all dead. So all the fun of being a play-by-play. But I mean, Mercedes now has what, 6 kills out of like 10ish. So they are real. I mean, they already have their blade. They already have a nano blade. And
wow.
I mean, here's the thing about this: like this push bot, really close to hitting that first marker, you can just walk it in. You know, you can snowball this really easily on this game mode. So this could be over in just a matter of minutes if Bearclaw doesn't find their footing soon.
Yeah, and they had to make some swaps. They've made 2 already, and so that's going to set them back significantly in the old percentage. Kizaru going to try and fade away from the nano blade that has their name on it. Here comes the blade portion of that, slicing into Astro next, but they're going to be slapped out of it, removed from the fight. That's going to be Bearclaw coming away with their first possession here, right after the first point's capped.
And that is an important one. Will they be able to destroy the spawn hole? That's the question. I think they actually might be able to get rid of that. We'll see if Pushbot's able to get there in time before the recontest comes through. I think the big thing there is that, I mean, there is a nano and there is a blade, but they did not come out at the same time. There was a delay between when those 2 things came out. That's why I don't think it worked out for gaming.
Yeah, I think Kizaru would have gone down in one swipe had Mercedes used that blade there instead of, I don't know if it was playing a little greedy or what. Gonna be Astro next, though, diving in. They are forced back relatively quickly. A couple stuns come into them as well, but Bun has the EMP ready. Do they want to use it here, though, is the question. Point swapping control, or Robot, rather, swapping control a couple of times here in the last few seconds, as is the lead in the kill feed. Codebreaker now receiving a lot of pressure, but they're able to deal with it pretty well and stay in the fight.
I think that forward spawn has now been broken, I believe, so that means not as good positioning for Gaming as Codebreaker's going to be pressured out a little bit. They do get position, though, of the push bot again, so it's just going to keep going back and forth. But again, like, none of this really matters. The objective isn't the important thing here. It's really just winning this fight out, and it's just trades on trades, and I think that was a coalescence that's being popped.
That certainly was. Kizaru coming out with it. They're able to find Mercedes. Astronex finishes off Guru as well. And Bearclaw once again with control of Pushbot.
Control for the time being. Now they're getting close to that forward spawn capture point, and also getting very close to getting equalized to what Gaming has already captured with their push. So good stuff to work on. Also, they got an EMP and Blade ready to go, so we could see that combo come out because there is no Nano to try to pocket Kendrick. So I think that's the way to go, honestly. Just use the EMP and then follow it up with the Blade. There's the EMP. Where's the Blade? There it is with the sound barrier. It will be there. It's another sound barrier on top of it.
The first one not quick enough to save Mercedes. Here comes the Blade now from Kendrick. They're going to use their deflect to great effect, finishing off Pizza Demon afterwards. Astronex takes out Froggery. But both DPS are down for Bearclaw. This certainly isn't over yet. Oh, but now it is.
Yeah, I mean, Mercedes is alive, but really not going to try to take that fight. The forward spawn has been confirmed. And now Bearclaw, they're only about 9 meters away from tying this up, potentially taking the lead. Gaming, they swap Codebreaker to the Tracer, which I do like. They've also swapped Guru now to the Winston, so some changes to try to match fire with fire. And now Guru is just going to try to jump in.
Yeah, and I wonder if we're going to see the same thing happen here now that Guru is back on the Winston. Already, Pizza Demon and Mercedes out of the fight, though. Bearclaw seems primed to continue their push here and make up a little more ground, and I believe they will, in fact, take the lead.
Yeah, they will, just in a matter of moments, and there it is. So 2 minutes, 40 seconds left to go. They are continuing to build that lead up, meter by meter, brick by brick. The Bearclaw, they might have this run come to an end. Gaming finally has ultimates ready to go. The Blade, the Pulse Bomb. Pulse Bomb never guaranteed to get much of anything, but if it lands, it lands. Bearclaw, all they have is a Primal, and they already have lost their Genji.
Yeah, that's big right there. They're going to get sustained with the Primal Rage, but after that's expended, I'm looking for Gaming to really start to push, but they're able to get the pick onto Kizaru before they get the Coalescence out. Code Gaming with a big Pulse Bomb right there.
Yeah, it doesn't stick, but that's not necessarily what you need all the time. Unfortunately for Kizaru, they just end up running into it, and that means the objective has been flipped. Bob, or I actually call him Dave. The push bot is going to continue moving. The coalescence out from Kizaru is going to try to even things up, but the Blade from Mercedes,
it's going to yield 1 kill, but so does Kendrick on the other side, and in fact, it's going to be Kendrick who takes Mercedes out. 2 picks for either side. Guru's popped the Primal Rage now. The point now being fought over, things have pushed back to Dave, and once again, Gaming will come up the winners.
Thank you for adopting my name for Dave. I
know
that's not the official name, but I'm gonna stick with it, and also that is what it will be called in the Dallas Fuel social media. Anyway, but I mean, it's really just, I think the swap of Tracer from Codebreaker has really paid off. Codebreaker definitely a great widow, but now they have all that upfront damage. The Tracer able to follow up on Guru on the Winston. You can see just like how much easier they're finding these elims, but they are not going to find much of the EMP.
Frogger will be taken out. Guru goes down as well. Bun removed from the fight, but now we're getting a lot of action happening over towards the gym. Astronex able to find Mercedes as well. This point gonna go the way of Bearclaw.
I mean, we just saw 2 eliminations via damage orb. I don't think I've seen that in a very long time. A lot of them where play really right now is healing. Pizza Demon trying their best, does get the coalescence, but Dave will go back in the other direction. The push bot moves back for Bearclaw, and I think, oh, well, Gaming, they got some support ultimates, but Bearclaw, they got everything basically except for the EMP and coalescence they just used, and we were getting down to the wire. I think this is basically last fight territory, honestly.
Oh, it certainly is, and it's the favorites, I think, has to be Bearclaw right now. They have the ultimates, and look at this. They've already sustained themselves through Coalescence, but Mercedes does find a pick onto Kizaru. Now they have to come out big, but it's gonna be Gaming who does it instead, shutting down at least the Blade, but fortunately for Bearclaw, they're able to hold on to 2. This is incredible coming out from Gaming.
is absolutely now the last fight scenario. If gaming lost that map would have gone the way of Bearclaw. This map would go the way of Bearclaw, but because of this, they do get another chance. They just have to keep one person on the push bot at all times, and that play gets shut down because Kendrick jumped in when they had like 80 health.
And here comes Frogger with another aggressive feat into the mix. Guru gonna pop the Primal Rage as well. Graham counters with another sound barrier. Bun in the thick of things right now, just looking to try and build that EMP. There it goes. It's gonna hit, and it's gonna hit hard. Gaming take it down to just one player. It's Codebreaker. Never mind, they're out of the fight. That's gonna be the win for Bearclaw.
And that means we get another map 3, and I feel like this is just going to be the par for the entire tournament.
Yeah.
No one wants to go home. No one wants to go to the lower bracket, at least at this rate. Next game, someone's going home, but for this one, both of them want to push it all the way to the limit, to that escort map. Maybe you get to see Casino Royale this time around. And I just think that you can see some of the... I mean, we said that Control and Push have some similarities. They do seem a little bit more chaotic, but I do think at the end of the day, Push definitely more of a team-based game. There's a lot of strategy that still goes into it. It's not as easy as Escort or Hybrid to really set those plays up, but you could see some of those EMPs that were set up for Bun were just incredible. It was the EMP that really put it away at the end for Bearclaw. It sealed the deal for them to win that map and move on to another one. Even though Gaming had momentum, they had a few ultimates at their disposal. They just weren't able to recover from that EMP. Because of that, we are going to be going to Escort.
That we are, and I'm excited for it. I think it's great seeing a team like Gaming, giving Bearclaw such a run for their money is something special, I think. And can't wait to see how this third and final map's going to go, where we're going to go. I think it's not going to be Gibraltar. I think we've probably seen all of Gibraltar that we're going to see tonight, Jag. But who knows?
So.
I may have just cast or cursed us.
I don't like Gibraltar. Like, that's just a personal opinion. I enjoyed it a lot more in Overwatch 1. I just feel like playing in Overwatch 2 feels like I think it kind of makes you wonder if there will be maps reworked at all. I mean, we've seen them do it already. Horizon Lunar Colony, they tried saving it, didn't work out. But I think if there's any map to rework right now, it's probably Watch Point Gibraltar, especially that second point. It's just so hard to break as an attacker. So I also doubt we'll see it again, but I do believe this is Gaming's pick. So, it's really up to them from the 4 maps that we have in the tournament, what they want to do. It did seem like they really wanted to put Codebreaker on the Widowmaker, so I feel like for that, Casino Royale would be a good choice, kind of trying to will that into existence right now. But as we talked about before, I mean, Dorado, as well as Route 66, there is potential to play Widow there. It's really just about playing around their strengths, especially because they don't have that same synergy that a team that's been together as long as Bearclaw will have coming into this.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Dorado, I think, would be my pick if I were Bearclaw Gaming as well, because let's be honest, we're probably going to run the Winston, right? That's just been, out of any hero, I think, they've been the most omnipresent, right? So if you're going to go Winston already, my mind says, let's go to Dorado, right? And if we go there, it'll be a daylight Dorado as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I was thinking about this. Like, we're both rocking Lijiang Tower backgrounds. I'm like, well, Lijiang Tower's not at night anymore. Yeah, they touched on this. It's like, is it day market now? It's not really night market anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
We'll see what it is. I believe we might have just gotten it actually in the chat. Looks like we're going to see some subs coming in. So we're going to see some new phases coming in, which is, I think, exciting. We did not see any subs in the last match, so I'm going to look really quickly at the rosters, and the one player we haven't seen yet from Gaming is Warren, who I believe is a really good Cassie player, if I remember correctly from their streams, really good at that hit scan mid-range role. And meanwhile, Bearclaw, they got I believe a few different players. I was talking about who would play the Tracer over Bun and Kendrick, but it's actually been both of them playing this entire time with Bun mostly taking over that role. Haven is another player that they have on their roster that I don't think we've seen yet, is more of a hit scan DPS player. So maybe if they want to go blow for blow with a Widowmaker, try to go for more of a long range duel, that's who they bring out. We're gonna have to see who it ends up being. It is a Circuit Royale though, at least, so one thing's going my way tonight.
Hooray! I'm excited we're going to get to see this map. And, one of the most interesting parts of this map, I think, is right where that first capture point is, where you've got the steepest incline I think we have seen yet in an Overwatch game. And I think that just works so beautifully to these snipers, to these long and even mid-range hit scans like Cassidy that you were talking about.
I just really hope we don't see an illegal Maywall. You know, that would be a real shame to see. I mean,
We
how
don't
could
want to have
they
to replay the map.
yeah, how could they hurt us like this? How could they cheat like that? But I agree with you. I think there's so many like great ways. Like I think that also like the way the map is designed is just kind of weird, especially this first point because like you said, there's that huge incline, but it's like 3 turns before we even get there. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of high ground that you can try to play off of. A lot of defenders were playing like way closer than they would on any other map on that first bend just because you can play up there for what feels like forever, and then finally when the cart gets there you can just kind of drop onto it. So there's a lot of different play styles. Kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier, is the design very, very different in Overwatch 2 than what we've seen previously in Overwatch 1. And I mentioned this before, this is a Sigma map, and I'm glad to be proven right about this. One of the only maps you'll see you know, a shield tank come out. I refuse to call Winston a shield tank. I know he has the bubble, but he just like leaves it there and then he runs off. Sigma, you know, is always playing behind his own shields. The projected barriers will be projected onto our screens for this evening. Will probably be our last map of this series. Again, it is possible they could draw here. It's not likely, but it's possible.
Yes, it certainly is. I like the fact that we're getting to see Sigma here as well. You know, getting some variety in the tank line. I mean, especially considering that we're going to see half the tanks we normally do. You know, that just means to me, I want to see more of them on a regular basis. I want to see them swapped in and out, being very map specific, very composition specific. So great to see Sigma coming out here as the cart gets ready to round the first corner for gaming. They're going to give up just a little bit of space right here, giving an opportunity for Haven to find a pick onto Codebreaker, winning out that Widow duel. It's going to be Guru finding Kendrick as well, evening up the scoreline, and so far, Bearclaw's defense looking pretty solid.
And I called it, right? I said if they're going to bring in anyone, it's going to be Haven for this Widowmaker, and there it is. When you make calls like that, you always feel big brain as a caster. But right now, even with that first fight win, you're seeing that Bearclaw. They're giving up some space right now to let that cart get around the, I guess, just stalled out car. And oh my goodness, Haven there just, you know, kind of forgets what they are, and Codebreaker is able to get revenge.
Yeah, I didn't even see Codebreaker peek the corner when that shot came in. I mean, that was just a tremendously fast reaction time coming out from them. Now Guru finds a pair of kills. Kizaru falling as well, and with that, gaming will get to push forward, winning one fight.
One fight, and they're basically already at the capture point because teams, they do play close to the beginning as a defender, but usually they back up around this corner, and once you lose this corner, you do have that high ground of the hill. But I know as far as high ground goes, I don't think this is great high ground because you're not really that protected by the natural environment of the map. There's not really any natural cover for you to play behind. You have to play kind of on the cart anyway to contest it. That's exactly what right now Clear's gonna have to do.
We're going to see Codebreaker looking for an opportunity to find a head amidst all of these shields and natural cover. Hasn't been able to get one just yet. Clear now pushing forward for Bearclaw Gaming. They found briefly the Hanzo, but they back off to the rest of their team. Mercedes finding the cover and care of their supports. Here comes a Gravitic Flux in response to an Amp Matrix, and the Gravitic Flux lands in a huge way. Clear with a 5K.
I think that was a 4K plus Immortality field, but we'll give it to him. That's
yeah,
a 5K.
You're right.
One thing we didn't even talk about though is I was talking about Haven, is that Clear comes in for Astronex, and this is kind of what we were talking about before. You know, you have two tanks for these exact reasons. You still have a main tank and an off tank. They just don't play together anymore. So Clear coming in as an off tank player is going to be very proficient at the Sigma, and you saw the play there. I mean, just doing it all themselves with that ultimate, and now they're going to have to deal with the counter Gravitic Flux that's coming out from Guru.
And that Gravitic Flux going to catch the off-tank Clear. They go down to just a sliver of health. Kizaru forced to pop the Transcendence to save them. Graham going to be able to find a pick onto Frogger as well before they get the sound barrier online. Going to be gaming backing up quite a bit, even to in response to all of that aggression coming in.
Well, the Infrasights come out, and there's only a minute left on this. They lose 2 more fights, and they're going to get full health here on the first point. Bearclaw, they still have a Blade, they still have a Rally, so they still have utility as damaged ultimates left to go, and it looks like that Rally's going to be forced here.
Blade now committed. We're going to see the sound barrier in response from Frogger. And that's going to allow Codebreaker to peek this corner a little bit more aggressively, as well as the rest of the team. 30 seconds left to go. We are in last fight territory here, Jag. Codebreaker looking for a nice grapple shot, and they get it on the Haven. Beautiful kill right there, but Bearclaw is going to come away with the lion's share of them instead. Gaming now on their last feet. They're not going to have a complete fight here. It's going to be scuffed if they can even make it to card. It's going to be up to Frogger.
Mercedes and Codebreaker, they swap to faster heroes. The Genji and Tracer making an appearance. Guru going to a Winston, so this is all for the touch. With 6 seconds left, someone has to make it. I think that Tracer's going to be the one to try to get there in time, and it looks like they do. Overtime has been triggered. There's a Gritic Flux ready to go, and even if anyone else can touch, I don't think it's going to matter.
No, they're gonna pull Guru into the air. They fall even before they're released from the grasp of this guy. Mercedes with a beautiful latch stiff effort, but it's not gonna be enough, and Bearclaw gets a first point hold.
There's no doubt that Codebreaker is winning the battle there against Haven. I think it was like 3-1 when all was said and done between the Widow head-to-head, but they did not win the war. And that's the thing, if you're taking out your counterpart, that's great, but what can you do afterwards? And you know, it's the sightlines. They were good at the beginning, but I feel like once you get around that corner, you saw them trying to peek through that shop through like the 2 doors, and that was good for a little bit, but Clear sees it, shuts it down, and then just pushes up past the corner, so that way that isn't an option. A great kind of understanding of the map geometry early on in Overwatch 2's existence to help shut down any attempt of Codebreaker taking over the game. And now the win condition for Bearclaw is looking oh so mighty fine. They win that first fight around the corner, and they're halfway there to taking this series. And what would be technically a reverse sweep. I don't like saying that because it's only 3 maps in total, but they did lose the first map.
Technically
it would be a reverse sweep.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It maybe doesn't hold the same gravitas as a reverse sweep does when there are more maps, but it certainly is, it could be the case here. Gonna see a Gaming instead opt for the Winston on the defense. So breaking the meta a little bit here to maybe go back to what's worked for them in the past.
And we saw that Guru definitely can play Winston. Like, there's no doubt about it. Has definitely given Astronex a run for their money in this series. Sigma play just seems like Clear is getting a bit better of an advantage. So maybe trying to do this as a counterplay, trying to, you know, just use the Tesla cannon through the shields, get a bit of cleave damage in, and then everyone else falls up on it. Maybe try to get the Genji. They're hiding in this room, and no one has found them out just yet, which means they could collapse on Clear very quickly if this works out.
They certainly could. Clear none the wiser that that's about to happen. Now they're starting to feel that tingle from the Tesla cannon. Haven able to take Codebreaker out of the fight early on, though. Kendrick falls, but is that going to be enough to stop their progression through this map? It's going to be one down on each side, but Gaming giving up a lot of ground right now.
Well, they have to. I think it's actually a 4v3, so I think it's a little bit of an advantage for Bearclaw, which means that Gaming have to give up the space. And that's questionable. Looking at how much they give up, sure, I get like you don't want to give up ultimates, but if you die on the cart, at least you kill time, and then you get a full regroup. They are going to get the full regroup now, but already it's just so close to the end point.
Yeah, at this point, Bearclaw Gaming has to win one true fight and probably one scuffed fight. Neither team with an advantage at the moment, though, in this current one. Guru goes down dangerously low, though. Their healer's going to be there. Pizza Demon keeping them up for all they're worth, but it's not going to be enough. Gaming falling by the wayside, and now they have to lose this fast or get out fast because they've got just one more chance to hold on to their spot in the winners, in the upper bracket.
This might be a haven for some, but it feels like hell for Gaming right now. They finally get that last second test with the Gravitic Flux. It's a Flux 9, and Haven does it in style. What a way to end this series, Bearclaw. They come up on top. It wasn't easy, but the swaps they made here on Circuit Royale helped them get ahead. And Clear might have only played one map. Same thing with Haven, but they looked like stars in that one appearance they both had.
They really did, and I think... You know, what that really does is it speaks to the depth of Bearclaw Gaming, right? That they were able to make these subs that had, you know, such a dramatic impact on the game was absolutely tremendous. You know, a lot of times I think people have the mistaken impression that subs are like, you know, the second tier players, right? But as we especially move into Overwatch 2, I think that becomes even less the case than it was in Overwatch 1. The depth that you have in a roster really needs to be there to cover the breadth of the heroes that can be played in Overwatch 2.
And I think, there's been kind of a culture that has changed over time in Overwatch 1, especially in Overwatch League Season 1. Teams had like full rosters. They would have, basically two teams that they could run at any given time to have those sort of specialists, to have everything covered as needed. Over time it's changed to smaller rosters really having just the same six starting always, but in this new era I think that specialists are needed more now than ever because a lot of these maps are going to be drastically different compositions, and I personally would rather have a lot of players that are great at some specific things than one player that's just good at a lot of different things. There's nothing wrong with being a Swiss Army knife. There's still going to be tons of room for those kinds of players, but I mean, this is why you have rosters that have more than 5 players, right? So you can swap them in for things like this. They do what they need to do, what other players on your roster can't do. And I was, worried about this earlier about how, Bearclaw out Zero would do. They look like they're doing just fine.
That they do. They're going to be going up in Team Burrito in winners round 4. But that's going to do it for us at the moment. We are once again going to send it to a short break. But before we do that, once again, any words from you, Jag?
I'm really excited to see what happens in the lower bracket because now this is going to be a do or die for the teams that we're going to be spectating in the next matchup. We don't know what it is just yet, so I can't even tease what it is, but knowing how good the players already are that we've sent there tonight to the lower bracket, I can't wait to see what we get to find out.
Hey guys, I hope you guys are enjoying the tournament. I just want to take 1 second to talk about something that sort of resonates with me. Growing up, my family wasn't super, supportive of video gaming and esports and whatnot, as most families are not. My parents really wanted me just to study really hard, or play real sports like soccer and whatnot. So I didn't really have, a way to, play with other friends or, meet people online. So I've actually partnered with Esports Tower. Esports Tower is a club level program for students that are, 13 to 18 years. It's a year-round program where essentially students get 3.5 hours of coaching a week, and you get opportunities to play in like tournaments and meet like other like influencers in a particular game. So I'll be offering a 2-week free trial to that program. And if you want to keep going, I believe it's like $5, so it's pretty affordable. But I highly suggest checking it out. I honestly wish going back, if I had these options, like to just like do a club and sort of like meet people or like-minded, I think I really would have enjoyed that. As well as they also, help, high schoolers meet colleges and, maybe look at collegiate scholarships, which I think is really huge. So yeah, definitely check them out, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the tournament.
Well, it may be the end of the night, but where we are headed next, Jag, it will be daytime. We're back for our third and final game that us two are going to cast for the evening. It's going to be Revitalize up against Spin to Win, and our backgrounds, well, they were a premonition for this final match. We will be headed to Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, we get to see every control map tonight, which is tons of fun. We get to see a lot of different things on the table. And, Lijiang Tower, I feel like it's always been the favorite control map. It's always kind of been the first pick when you get the chance to do it. So it's good to see it here in the lower round 3. But that's the thing. We were in the upper bracket for the previous 2 matches. And we're saying, all right, well, they lose this, they still got another chance. Well, this is the last chance for these 2 teams, Revitalize and Spin to Win. 2 teams that had success in the first round, but both were not able to find it in the second round. Following here, they were able to win at least one more match, so both teams standing at 2-1 overall on the night. But now one of them is going to be sent packing for good, will not get any part of that $3,000 prize pool. And well, that's not what you want. You don't want to get knocked out on the first day of the tournament. So I'm interested to see what we end up, having as team compositions. We've seen a lot of different looks so far, but I feel like if there's anywhere we're going to see Winston, it's going to be here, right? Except for maybe Control Center. I mean, Reinhardt, maybe. We've seen London Spitfire and some other teams try to run it, but Winston especially, I feel like will be very strong on most of these points.
You're absolutely right. Winston, certainly the hero that you're going to go to if you're looking to play meta, but we mentioned the stakes a couple minutes ago, right? And they couldn't be higher right now for both of these teams. And in addition to just staying in the tournament, this is an opportunity for them to start to make a name for themselves as well, because there were 2 relative unknowns in this tournament. So, having this opportunity to make a run through the lower bracket is absolutely fantastic for both of them. And some of these players could become names that we recognize more and more as Overwatch 2 becomes a thing. Now, you mentioned as well Winston, but I'm looking at the name of Spin to Win right now, and I'm wondering if maybe we're going to see our first appearance of Wrecking Ball in a large way, at least during this tournament. I mean, Wrecking Ball, to me, it falls in the same place as Doomfist is one of the most selfish tanks, right? In Overwatch 2, where you're really not finding a lot of value. So I'm curious to see what this name is a hint at. I'd be surprised if we saw Wrecking Ball, but it certainly it gave me a little bit of a flash there in my mind when I saw the name.
Well, there's 2 things I think of, and one of them I can't talk about because it's another game completely. But when I think of Spin to Win, I think of actually the Beyblade meta, which is kind of the Mode Reaper Death Blossom, which is something we have seen quite a bit. I think we've seen basically the staple DPS, I would say, are Echo, Tracer, Genji, Soldier 76, and then you put the Reaper there too. And that's not in any specific order. That's just kind of the top choices at the moment. Obviously, we have seen Widowmaker time to time. We've seen Mei a little bit. There's room for all sorts of DPS, but those are the top 5. So that's my guess. Wrecking Ball is not good right now.
Wrecking Ball is really not good.
It's like you got your good tanks, your okay tanks, you got your Roadhog, and then you got Wrecking Ball a little bit down there. I actually would say maybe Wrecking Ball is better than Roadhog. Who knows? Neither of them very good in this current meta and patch that we have right now. We saw Wrecking Ball once, I believe, on that first map on Oasis, but that was just a stall tactic. They were just running back from spawn to try to recontest the point. We have not seen it seriously played at all, so it's not impossible. Who knows? You can make any character work, but meta is meta for a reason. It's because those are the best choices.
Yeah, and when you're in a tournament like this, right, in the tier 2.5, tier 2 scene, you really do have to pay attention to those metas. You really do have to, if not just outright play them every single place you go. So, yeah, very interesting to see what's going to come out here tonight. And Lijiang Tower, a great place to get a taste of what these teams could be running through the rest of the series.
And while we don't know these teams super well, we did get to at least learn a little bit about them through their team sheets. And 2 things I found very interesting, and one of them is Arjunk, one of the support players for Revitalize. They are the MVP at St. Clair, which I believe is a university program, so that's definitely a player to look out for. So, if you earn the MVP of your collegiate program, that's nothing, you got to be doing something right. On the other side, though, Outlaw for Spin to Win, main support player, was actually coached by Natter and helped get from 3.6 to 4.2. So, yeah, that's just another reason you should get Natter to be your coach, beyond the fact that he puts on awesome tournaments like this. But as we get into the swing of things, we'll see which one of these supports comes out on top. And no Symmetra anymore. That's the biggest thing. I'm so used to the Symmetra teleport here on what I'm going to call Day Market for the time being, off the top window, but they're not even going to worry about the point. They're going to try to... I mean, Revitalize is trying to rotate all the way around, and Spin to Win, they're just going to jump right on it.
That they are, and that to me makes sense, because they've got the Doomfist in tow again, right? One of the more selfish takes, so you're going to want to play near your team at all times. Exo, the first time that we've seen Sojourn, the thighs come out tonight, unfortunately removed from the fight just about as early as they get there. Revitalize will come away with the first point capture and fight win.
And we talked about this before. Sojourn did get buffed today, so she's got more ammo. She's got a faster fire rate, I think, as well. So they continue to try to make her stronger. I think it's because she's a new character, and usually new characters come out a lot stronger than they should, and they kind of tool them down. But it's kind of been the opposite. Sojourn has been okay, but you can just play Soldier 76 in her place, and I think that's what a lot of teams have done. That's why they continue to nurse Soldier, but no Soldier for either side here. Instead, Revitalize Genji, Reaper, and you gotta get out there really quickly if you're that Reaper, and luckily for them, they will be able to stay alive in this engagement.
And the engagement's going to start out in an unusual place as well, right over near this mini health pack. Coalescence used very early by Funky Monkey, and that's going to drive the rest of Spin to Win back towards their spawn, and skipping a few steps to go there complete.
Yeah, and if they caught out that Reaper, though, I think that fight becomes completely different. It does force up the Coalescence. Funky Monkey has to get that extra healing in, but also they can use that as an engagement tool because it does damage in the same vein. So... maybe not the best way to use it, maybe not the way you wanted to use it, but you stay alive in that fight. And look at this point capture progress. It's only been 2 fights, but Revitalize is already at 66% and counting.
Spin to Win is going to have a couple of ultimates to try and make something happen, but unfortunately, website recalls into their own pulse bomb, I believe. Funky Monkey taken out, which is a big deal because they've been a huge part of the success of Revitalize so far. So this is an opportunity for Spin to Win to come back with it, but it's going to be that much harder now that Thunder is out of the equation. More people on point at the moment for Revitalize, but yeah, it's going to be them coming away once again with a fight win, and now this is do or die time for Spin to Win.
That's a really big reset. These Outlaws not going to have enough time to get back into this. Like, they do have the moves potentially to like run back in, but I mean, it's gonna be website on their own right now after they blew themselves up with the... They get nanoed, so they do have survivability, but that's gonna make the sound barrier come out.
And Death Blossom as well from Natter. That's gonna seal the deal right there. Crime gonna go towards spawn with a blade in tow to make sure nobody can touch. It was Thunder at the last moment, Exo as well, but that's gonna be all she wrote for Spin to Win on our first submap.
That has to be the most dominant performance we've seen so far on a control map. Every other series we've had so far has been so incredibly back and forth, but that one, wow, that was very one-sided. And I gotta say, Datura, it seems like they're having a lot of synergy with their DPS partner Crime. They're not only the ultimates, coming out at the right times, but it was funny because Crime goes all the way into the spawn, right? So very far away from the actual engagement, gets the Moira. But immediately Datura waves, Crime waves back, saying, yeah, I'm still here. I'm coming back to the point, and don't worry, guys. I'll be there in just a moment to help you clean everything up. And, I mean, they cleaned up almost every engagement they had. They only lost, like, 2 members at most in any fight, any given fight, and that's part of why they're able to 100-0. They had that staying power the entire time.
And the question is, will they have the same kind of staying power here as Exo gets a huge environmental kill to start things off for Spin to Win. Might need to rebrand yourselves Boop to Win after that one right there, because there's just about no way you come back from that.
Yeah, it's a big surprise. It's very well played. You see this a lot. Just try to go for that environmental elimination off the bridge, and it catches everyone off guard. But now Revitalize, they know what's up, and yep, they're making the swaps immediately. Gone are the Genji and Reaper, and we saw for a moment it looks like they might be going for a Soldier. Okay, back to the Soldier. Widow was thought about, but I think the Soldier makes more sense here. Chance still going to be going on to the Echo, so I think I called this like an Echo Mercy something.
Wow.
But, I mean, it doesn't matter what you call it because you're already down your main tank.
Another fantastic environmental kill from Exo, and Squeak also got unlucky right there as they went for the jump pack but ran into the wall because of the boot. So just a little bit of luck and a great awareness coming out from Exo to lead to that first kill. They're going to launch the barrage as well, taking out two. The DPS and the tank, the res will come in though. Very risky, but the reward may be worth it. They're chasing down the Ana there. The backline are able to take Thunder out of the fight eventually, and this is swingable. At least it was until Chance went down.
And it's really hard to run this Echo Mercy combination into a Pharah. You might be able to win the 1v1 battle, but Pharah just does so much more splash damage, especially if she gets a direct hit. Like, she just can blow people up. You're really relying on your dual abilities, your sticky grenades as well as the focusing beam. Pharah really just has to focus on her primary fire. So I think the Pharmacy does have the advantage, and they definitely have the advantage right now with its Visor.
Yeah, they certainly do. That's going to take out the entire aerial combo that was coming into play for Revitalize. And now, spin to win. They're making very short work of them here. This could go just as quickly their way as it went Revitalize's last sub-map.
That's what it's looking like, but spin to win did use quite a few ultimates there.
Oh, Funky Monkey.
Anything here except the Valkyrie to use, so they're not going to have the same kind of prowess. They do take out the Ana, but the Nano does go off before that happens.
It's not maybe going to matter, though. Although a Datura able to get a pick on the Exo, this could, in fact, turn things around. Now they're putting a lot of pressure into the Soldier. They're going to duplicate them as well, looking to get that Tac Visor online quickly. But an anti-nade going to sway them from that. In fact, they're going to be removed from their duplicated form. And now the Tac Visor from Crime looking to do a lot more work. Revitalize will, in fact, be able to capture the point at the last moment possible.
Not 100-0, but they used 4 ultimates there to get the job done, to get that capture in place, and while they might have the Meteor Strike just in time, spin to win, self-destruct, as well as a Rocket Barrage ready to go, and, you know, both of those ultimates very explosive, a lot of just instant elimination potential if spin to win plays their cards right. In fact, they don't really have to play for this fight win, they just have to play to get ultimates out and make sure that that Doomfist Meteor Strike is gone.
Yeah, if they can take that out of the equation, then there goes literally every win condition outside of a, just a drive-by win or Revitalize. They're going to launch the Meteor Strike. They're chasing down the Ana, but it's not going to land. They have to get out of there fast because they had just a sliver of health. Natter are able to take Exo down, pulling out the res, making that unavailable. There is going to be a pick on the Chance from the Barrage, and they translate this into more. There's going to be a DMAC coming out, but Exo finds another one. Make it 2 more in the meantime. Spin to win coming back in this in a huge way.
Yeah, there's just a lone soldier trying to make the best of this. They get out. So there is still a Soldier 76 alive, but they can't touch. Maybe they go for the rocket jump. They don't get it. They land in the pool, and with that, so do the chances of Revitalize closing it out in a 2-0. So 3 games we've had Juggle God tonight. 3 times we were going to the full distance on a control map. We're going to Control Center. And this is where things get the most interesting. I really want to know if teams will pull out the Reinhardt like we're so used to. Doesn't look like that off the bat. Of course, just as I say that, Squeak says, you know what, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, this is, what's really fascinating to me about this map is I think it used to be the kind of the least interesting, shall we say, in Overwatch 1, right? Because you just run Reinhardt, right? Whereas the other map's definitely more flexible. Now, I don't feel like that's the case necessarily anymore. We will see the Reinhardts picked, but Winston just as viable, maybe even more so here. Gonna see both teams. Yeah, we're going to see both teams make it up to this high ground at relatively the same time. Charge coming in from Trojan, but fortunately, because of the changes to Overwatch 2, they're able to get out of danger relatively quickly. It's not the death sentence if it misses that it was before. Thunder has to use that immortality field, but it's already gone. That is definitely now the time for Revitalize to strike. But it's going to be Outlaw coming away big early on. Funky Monkey out of the fight, and with that, there go the chances of Revitalize taking the first capture.
And although Mei is definitely not as strong as she used to be, she does not freeze anyone except her Blizzard ultimate. She only slows them. That wall is still so crucial. And when you're able to wall someone off like that, cut off the heals, focus them down, the whole team is there from spin to win to just get the damage done. They did it so well that time, and now they have an Ant Matrix because of all of the damage and healing they did.
And it's going to be put to great effect, pushing all the members of Revitalize up to that high ground. They're even able to kind of peek around the corner and get in a little damage as well. There are several of them going to follow them up to that high ground. Website coming in with a big pair of kills on the Mei. Shatter will land. And now it's just Squeak holding on for as much as they can, but spin to win once again comes out on top.
Off the back of Exo, gets 3 kills, 2 of them via the Death Blossom, and they have everything else to work with besides the 2 they just used, Blizzard, Earth Shatter, as well as Sound Barrier. So their ult bank, it is looking very healthy. Revitalize, they're coming up on some things, but they gotta move sooner than later, and they might get stuck in this Blizzard.
The Squeak is going to charge out of it at the same time as Natter lets loose with the Death Blossom in the back line. Trojan comes in with a nice charge, but it's not going to be enough to swing things in their favor, and Revitalize will take control of the point.
Yeah, that's a huge team kill there, because not only do they get the point, they also can take actual positioning here near the door, which you usually want, as now holding the point. They still keep a few ultimates. Prime has that blade ready to go. Sound Barrier could be used as a counter to their own Sound Barrier, or the other team's Sound Barrier. We'll see how it's used, and it comes out. Both of them actually come out at the same time.
The Shatter, though, from Trojan knocks down several members, and while Revitalize may have been able to take the point once, it's going to be Spin to Win reclaiming it as their own.
They just muscle on in, and they take the fight right to them. I don't think the Genji works out well here, and Prime agrees with me, but is it too little too late? It's a few extra seconds of point capture for Revitalize, but they are on the back foot. Thunder, has another Amp Matrix ready to go right now. Could use it right at this doorway, or could back it up after the wall is used, and they're going to use it right now.
The Mayball going to be used to try and block some of that damage. It's going to allow Revitalize enough time to kind of move around it and launch their own Amp Matrix as well. That gives them a lot of potential to push on to point. They are taking that right now. I think the Amp Matrix from Funky Monkey got a lot more value than Thunder's did in that engagement.
It did indeed, and you know, sometimes it's all about timing, right? And that time, the timing was perfect. The angle also can be really important with an Amp Matrix, because sometimes you put it in a position where the other team can just push forward and push past it. Revitalize, you know, with this second wind, they also have a few ultimates at their disposal, but I mean, it just feels like, we were talking about this before, like, ultimates don't charge faster. They always seem to have them anyway. I mean, there's, what, like, 2, 3 on each side? And these Death Blossoms are going to be ready for both, and that's going to be, I think, the nail in the coffin, but it's going to be Spin to Win who gets theirs canceled by the Shatter.
And that means Datara's lands. Exo will get a pick on the tail end of their Death Blossom website. Pops now the Blizzard. That's going to give them point control as the main take goes down for Revitalize. There's just a little bit of hope left for them to come back in this, but it is dwindling by the moment. Trojan charges in on Reinhardt to help finish off these last few stragglers. It's going to be the last chance for Revitalize to come back in this fight. The first map goes the way of Spin to Win.
And you would have not expected that result after how dominant Revitalize was on that first point. Daymarket was all theirs, 100-0, didn't even blink. It was that quick. It was just a very one-sided performance. And then Spin to Win, all of a sudden, they bring out this Pharah pick. And it's like, all right, we'll just do this. And we're going to change things around. That double environmental elimination play completely changed the momentum of how Lijiang Tower went for the rest of it. It was still back and forth, you know, it wasn't just Spin to Win, you know, running over Revitalize for the rest of the map. But you could see they had an edge they didn't have before. It was kind of like they woke up with that one play, and it was a little bit just of out compositioning. You know, they come up with the pharmacy at first, they try to mirror on the other side with the Echo Mercy, doesn't really work out as well, and then they have the Mei. Those walls were so good on Control Center, and eventually Revitalize go for the mirror, but at that point, Spin to Win's already in one fight territory.
Yeah, and at that point, it's going to take just about a miracle to come back in that fight, or rather in that submap. So, kudos to them for you know, giving it their all, but unable to pull it off. And the first map goes the way of Spin to Win. That means it's Revitalized map choice, and we will be headed back to Coliseum. We are going to Rome once again, Jag.
Exciting stuff, and I'm, you know, really intrigued to see how this is played. This is the first map that you and I have been able to see twice tonight, which means there's always room for different play styles. We already saw a little bit of Sojourn, and I would honestly love to see a little bit of Sojourn again. I feel like there's a lot of great flanking opportunities. Like, Push sometimes just feels like who is going to outflank the other one. It's like a game of hide and seek, and if you're found, it's not a lot of fun when you get blown up by the railgun or the Helix rocket, whatever, you know, you choose to use. But with Coliseum, like, there's so many avenues where you can just run behind someone, and it seems like teams have been playing it a little bit safer. You know, if they've been rotating, they've been rotating mostly together as opposed to just sending one person off on their own. I want to see some of those more one-on-one plays. I want to see someone go for those big risky flanks that just like somehow end up leading to an entire team kill. We'll have to see if either team is up to the task here, but we've already seen a lot of variety from both sides, which makes me inclined to think we might be seeing some less than meta things here.
Yeah, that would be exciting. I love to see kind of the variation come out with these teams. And, we're heading to a new map. It's a new game. And I think this makes for a great time to plug one of our final sponsors. And that's going to be Esports Tower. Ooh, the game is just about ready to start, though. So I'm going to hold off on that, telling you a little bit more about that after this game. The composition's coming out. So far, nothing too unusual, actually. A little bit bummed about that, but excited to still see Trojan coming out on the Doomfist. It's going to be spin to win, making it the point first. That's going to give them an opportunity to scout things down, decide how they want to engage onto Revitalize. Trojan coming in now, trying to create some opportunities for the DPS, forced to back out almost immediately, going back in for its second engagement, but finds their way back out just about as quickly as they came in. Natter now eats an anti-nade. They're going to have to use their fade to get out of that, but they do it with just enough time to come back into the fight and help clean up what the rest of their team had started.
What's really crazy about all that is that Thunder actually hit a really nice purple, like you said, but then Jeddah is like, all right, well, I can just wraith out of this, so like, what does it really matter to me? And
Yep.
Besides getting that first capture for just a few moments, it's just all revitalized at this point. Okay, so Trojan swaps to the Winston. This is what I wanted to see. Usually when you go Doomfist versus Winston, the Winston seems to win. So Trojan making the swap early on, I think that's very smart.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to see Squeak diving into the back line almost immediately, able to take Outlaw and Thunder out of the fight, and with that, spin to win is crippled once again at the knee.
And you saw there that it was basically both Winstons diving onto the back line, and both of the main healers fell, the Ana and the Moira respectively, but the follow-up was just better on the side of Revitalize. Yeah. They had more people there to work with, and we're actually going to see, okay, so the Sojourn is going to come out. I was like, all right, is this actually happening? This is what I wanted to see earlier. Here's my concern. When this push bot, when Dave starts to move further and further along the map, your angles and routes of flanking become less and less because there's just less places to actually be a surprise.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that makes, Exo's util even more powerful, right? But who's more powerful at the moment is Crime, coming out with a 3K, two of which are the supports for Spin to Win.
Yeah, it looks like actually Spin to Win was having a good start there. They get that initial pick, but Revitalize, winning those first two initial fights, they have the ultimates, they have the resources, and they're spending them early on to make sure that they don't give up that point anytime just yet. They will be able to recontest it now. There was no capture yet for that first point, so there's no forward spawn yet, and it looks like this...
Wow.
This might be making a difference here on this Sojourn.
Yeah, it certainly may be, although Exo going to be caught out eventually by Squeak, but not before they shut down the ult of Funky Monkey as well. That's a huge blow to Revitalize's chances of winning this fight, but just as I say that, chance pops the sound barrier, allowing Revitalize to sustain through this and come away with picks once again onto the backline. Thunder and Outlaw just have not been able to stay alive so far in this map.
No, they have not been able to, but with that, with push bot being pushed back a little bit and that spawn not being unlocked, there's still time for Spin to Win to re-engage in that. And I think Trojan is looking to use their Primal Rage, or maybe just trying to save it for another day. I'm not sure there, but very far forward, stalling out that point. The good news is that spawn is still there, so they will be able to get back into this quickly, but they've got to start making some moves because this cart is just going the exact opposite way they want it to right now.
Yeah, it is, and there's still 4.5 minutes left to go, and Revitalize looks like they just do not want to stop. They may have to here, though, against their will, because website is absolutely popping off on the Genji.
Seems like this is going to be the first fight win, but they don't stop the cap from coming through. As you see, push bop, him thinking there momentarily, sometimes scratching his backside means that capture has actually been initiated. So that forward spawn will be there for Revitalize, which means they're going to get back into this much quicker. You see, they actually have their Winston, I believe, kind of around the backside, and that's going to be the Death Blossom from behind.
That's going to take Exo out of the fight almost immediately. Outlaw and Thunder follow very shortly, and despite Crime going down, Revitalize has full control again over Dave.
Yeah, now it's going to be just this lone Winston Trojan trying to make something happen, doesn't happen, and now Thunder's gonna be swapping to the Mercy, so dedicated healing to one person, potentially the damage boost onto Exo, Trojan swapping to the Zarya. So we said, you know, maybe some non-meta picks here. I definitely think these are in the realms of what is normal. You know, this isn't like something completely out of left field. But like you said, like it's still time, but they're running out of space. This bot is continuing to move.
Oh my gosh, and Spin to Win now starting to find some success here. I don't know if it's the swap to Trojan that was the biggest factor right there. I think it was probably website, but that's got to feel good for them. They desperately needed a win right there.
I mean, they're finally winning fights, but they use so much to get it done. The overclock, the blade, they have to swap the 2 new heroes, and it's exactly what happened last time. They finally get to where the actual objective is, and already the fight's being re-engaged on them.
It's going to be a coalescence to start things out. Outlaw pops the sound barrier in response. Squeak trying as much as they can to find a kill with that Primal Rage. Unable to get one, but so much space has been created. And with Natter taking Trojan and Outlaw out of the fight, things are once again going the way of Revitalize. Spin to Win just can't... If they catch a break, it's not for long.
Yeah, this is the advantage you get when you start rolling on push, and you get that first capture point, when you get the spawn advantage, you just are able to re-engage so quickly, so even when those fights are finally won by Spin to Win and Revitalize, they're right there, they have ultimates ready to use, and they just play at a bit of a faster tempo. Now they've got control of Dave again, and this blade from Revitalize got to try to clean things up.
Ooh, it's gonna be Exo barely able to get back into spawn, just avoiding death by that blade, but Revitalize, again, they've won the fight. This Dave is going to get to continue forward, and Natter with a Death Blossom in spawn for a 3K. Where did that come from?
And a 4K overall. They got 1 elimination right before they used that, and because of that, they continue to build space. Look at this, 105 meters to 2 meters. Right now, Dave is getting awfully close to actually capping the point, and you know, when I feel like it's kind of a surprise when you actually capture it. It's like not supposed to happen.
Right, exactly. To me, I feel like most games on push end before we see this capture, but already things continuing to go the way of Revitalize. Trojan uses the grab, but to no effect. Exo does find a pick onto Natter. There at the end, now both DPS gone, maybe finally Spin to Win is starting to stabilize, but again, my question is, for how long? It seems to be all dependent on whether or not website has a blade.
And they also have to move that push bot really, really quickly, because it does move quicker when it's not moving the actual objective, but it still takes quite a bit of time to move back, and look how far away they are. They're getting eliminations. I think the biggest thing is they're actually getting a few like stagger kills, which means that Revitalize won't be able to re-engage like they have previously, at least for the time being. But they got to make something happen here. I would love to see the overclock come out just right away with that Mercy pocket, the damage boost, and really just win out early. Because the longer that fight goes on and Revitalize is able to like stabilize something like a Primal Rage, the less chances you have for Spin to Win to move this.
And here it comes. We've got the damage boosted overclock. Outlaw pops the sound barrier as well. That's going to lead to a 1 kill, make it 2 kill, 3 kill advantage, and a lot of it off the back of Exo's overclock.
And get the rest, they lose Thunder, so that means they're down their primary healer. They're in overtime, they lose this or step off of it for too long, and it is over. They have over 100 meters to go. The miracle run, it could start now. Revitalize, they actually don't have any ultimates to work with. But Spin to Win, they're still down their Mercy.
Yeah, Mercy's still not quite back in the fight. Exo hanging back to try and give an opportunity for them to Valkyrie to it. But in the meantime, their teammates being taken out one by one. It's just Exo left. Hunter onto the Moira now. Getting back into this fight barely at the last second. And that's going to do it. We are going to have, once again, a 1-1 matchup here tonight, Jag.
Wouldn't want it any other way. Every game we've had tonight is a banger in one way or another. Every game is going the full distance. No 2 Overwatch here tonight. We're going to the tiebreaker once more, which means we're going to get another escort map. But this was like, I mean, we talk about one-sided, and this is what Revitalize did on that first point of Lijiang Tower. They just continued to run at Spin to Win. Spin to Win didn't seem to know what to do, and that could have actually been a 5K right there.
It could have, actually.
It
Oh
could
my
have been a
gosh.
full team, like just an individual play. The aces, it is called, else places. But here in this game, it's like the pendulum continues to swing back and forth. And to win, they were able to grab it back after that nice environmental elimination from the far on Lijiang Tower. Here, they just never were able to grasp really at anything. They won a few fights here and there, but they never even got it really past an initial spawn area of where the push bot, begins the map at. It was like barely out of that area at the very end, and then they just fell apart because they didn't have their Mercy there.
Yeah, I think, again, just about every fight that they won was off the back of a blade, and that's only going to happen so many times. So, yeah, just a great showing from Revitalize to come back in this and tie things up and take us to a map number 3. And, we've seen it once tonight, Jack. We saw Circuit Royale, but I mean, barely. We only got to see first point. I want to go there again. I want to see the full map this time around.
I do too, because it's a really beautiful map, and I mean, it makes me want to go to Monaco. Like, just get me on the next flight. I want to go there, right? But there's just like every map in the game, we see that high ground in the first point, and it kind of like arches up into the second point. But the rest of the map is very, very different. And that third point in the hotel is like super complex with the high ground. There's like 3 different levels of high ground at some point. So I again would have to agree with you here. I would love to see it. But based off of what I've seen so far, I'm not really sure. Like, before, I've been able to guess, like, oh, like, the losing team has done this before, so it probably makes sense that they went there. But we've seen so many different looks from both teams. I have no idea what Spin the Win wants to do here. I have no idea what playstyle they'll be going for. And I do see there is some message. So we're actually going back to a map that we've seen already, but it's not going to be Circuit Royale. It's going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar once more.
This is surprising. I mean, tonight has been full of them, I think, but arguably, I think going to Watchpoint Gibraltar might be the biggest surprise of all that we have had. I'm shocked by it, but here we are. Here we find ourselves, and as we both know, it's going to be Dive. There's just no way you're not playing Dive here. I mean, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion that if you're playing Overwatch 2, you're going to be playing Dive, but especially if we go to Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Yeah, I have got one word for you, and it's monkey. And if we don't see the monkey, I think there's going to be some question marks here in the chat. We did see Roadhog briefly for a moment, though, on the last time, and that seemed to work out.
It was like a scouting Roadhog.
Yeah, it was like, maybe we get the here. If not, it's whatever. We go back to what we're running. Anyway, we did see a lot of Widowmaker here, too, last time, which is I don't think we've seen that at all here in this series. So will we see that? Will we see an Ashe, which would be shocking to say the least. But if you're not comfortable on the Widowmaker, you're more of a Cassidy player, Ashe is kind of the good in-between alternative. And then you just put a Mercy Pocket on there, and usually you can get those one-taps onto squishies. So there's a whole world of possibility. And I think the fun thing about this matchup specifically is because they're in the lower bracket, because this is a do-or-die moment for both teams, and because they've already shown so much creativity, you never know what could actually come out. Like, we've kind of hammered this away for the viewers at home today, but this match in particular, like, we saw like Zarya Sojourn. You don't see that every day. Definitely not together.
I like that combo though, because like it was Sojourn's ability, and I apologize for it because I forget what it is, but her AoE damage dart, it combines so beautifully with a grab. It's not necessarily a what's going to win you the fight.
Shot. That's what you're thinking of, yeah.
Yes, but it takes everybody down low. It does a lot of cleave, right? And that makes things a lot easier for your DPS. So, small tangent there, but that's always just been a little surprising to me that we don't see more of that combination.
You know what? I think this would be a good time for, though, Jekyll God.
What's that?
I think this would be a great time for that last ad read.
You know what? You are absolutely right, because there's so many questions about Overwatch 2 that what better way to get a leg up than by getting some coaching? And that's what Esports Tower offers. For $5 a week, the same cost as a Frappuccino, Esports Tower will pair you with a professional coach and a team of committed players. Twice a week, you'll practice and prepare for bi-weekly competitive events. They also have industry insider talks, how-to workshops, and networking events that give you exclusive access to pro players, general managers, collegiate coaches, and scouts. No other amateur club does more to help you improve your skills, as well as get you connected and considered for college and career opportunities. The Natter X Community Beta Clash is sponsored by Esports Tower. And here we go, Jag.
Purposely in time for the action to start.
We've got an early engagement happening here on the bridge, just to try and get a little bit of space, allow that card to move under there for Spin to win. We've got a Mercy once again in tow behind Dadra on the Echo, and I like this pick on Gibraltar. I think it makes a lot of sense. Exo tried to find a few picks from the Widowmaker as well. And now, it's been Spin to Win able to push up far enough to where Revitalize is backed up to Blue Box, but they've given away control of it completely, which honestly I think is a bit of a mistake. Because now Spin to Win is going to be able to stage from there whenever they want. We see Gallant jumping back onto that high ground, though, to try and make sure it stays their own. They're able to take Chance out of the fight almost immediately, and with that, they may have to back off.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up blue boxes for just a moment, but they immediately drop back onto it. You see that Gallant's not going to give it up that easily, and I think it actually gives positioning for their Ana, for their Widowmaker to, you know, set up more towards where they want to, but in the meantime, they actually lose websites, so their Tracer is gone.
Crime on the sleep on the job as well for Spin to Win. They're going to be taken out by the Widowmaker. So both teams down that player at the moment, down that hero. Natter, though, getting very, very close to this duplicate, but with Spin to Win backing off, at least for the moment, they may not need to use it. I say that, and then Squeak jumps into the back line. Nanoboost committed to them as well. 3 members of Spin to Win down as Revitalize. They commit a nano of their own. The Primal Rage as well coming out for Spin to Win via Squeak. They are able to take Thunder out of the fight, and this is turned around into their favor.
But can they get the car? I mean, they get some eliminations, but you see they're not playing the objective right now. I think they're trying to win this fight cleanly. They're going to use the duplicate on top of it to try to get the Winston, but the rally has been popped, and
wow.
Yeah.
It appears that the rally wasn't enough to quite sustain Outlaw through that. The Primal Rage getting a little bit more value than maybe myself or anybody else would have expected. Exo now being chased down. They're not going to be long for this world, and Spin to Win will get the fight win. And but look at where the card is. Still, they've still got Gallant causing trouble in their backline and preventing the card from making progress.
I'm gonna call this push syndrome, where just no fights seem to happen on objectives anymore. It's just like, oh,
right,
we're gonna win the fight and then go for the objective. But you can do that while playing the objective. You can still win the fight and like have control of the cart. And because of the fact that they've like won a few fights but haven't actually been able to capitalize on it, it's just been not enough really to get the job done. And now it's gonna be a post bomb kill.
Revitalize down 1 member, but only for a moment as Datara's able to be rezzed by Chance now. Gallant going down very low for Spin to Win. They drop down to the point, but die just about immediately after that. Revitalize with a couple of picks, make it 3 in their favor. Surely they have to capture the point this time around.
I don't want to say anything until it happens, and I'm just going to stay quiet. It does look likely, especially with that sleep dart, but there is still a Winston there. It doesn't matter, though, and it will be Revitalize taking the point. And we finally got the correct team name, so thank you to production for sorting that out for us. We dearly appreciate it. So Revitalize, it takes a while. It takes probably a few more fights than it really should, but they do get it done. Exo's going back to the Sojourn, so this seems to be a bit of a comfort pick for them when other things aren't working out. Widowmaker tried and failed. And Revitalize break through this, you know, spaceship defense, and already they've taken out Exo from the equation.
Yeah, big pick to start things off already. Natter chasing down Tracer, unable to finish them off. Squeak now with the Primal Rage. They've got Ana trapped in a corner, but miraculously, they stayed alive for a lot longer than I thought they were. Outlaw now backing away from the damage coming in from that Tesla shield, but they back into the rest of the team, so no safe place for them, and with that, Revitalize looking primed to capture the second point. There's not going to be a contest. Oh, there is!
Just as you say it, it happens. It's a Nano Tracer, too. Are they long for this world? They also get a nice anti. Revitalize, they use their duplicate onto an Ana. It's a 2-for-1 trade. It's looking like it's Revitalize's way.
Yeah, the Outlaw going to pop the rally, though. They are able to get a couple, 1 pick and take Natter out of that duplicated form, but is it going to be enough? They're putting up quite the fight here, but at this point, it's just burning time off the clock. I don't think they have what needs to come in for the win.
Funky Monkey has been playing the back, you know, of this fight, just completely ways away from harm, and it seems that they're finally pressured out a little bit here at the very end by this Tracer, but Website, you're a little bit too late to that. Unfortunately, this Ana did all they needed and more. The ante they got was huge onto, I believe it was, I think it was Gallant at one point. Regardless, they just were free healing, free damage, free antis. They got a sleep as well into Gallant, so that was a huge flex support play there by Funky Monkey. And we talked about how hard that second point is to break through. They just did it in record time with only 1 real fight on the cart.
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job pushing this card forward, making a lot of space, and securing the kills that they need. Natter continuing that with the help of both supports. It's going to lead to a 1-kill advantage, but only for a moment. Gallant now with the Primal Rage. Squeak trying to do a lot of damage in the back line, but the Primal after the Mercy gets them in the air with their Fists of Fury. That was a tremendous play coming out from Gallant right there. And a phenomenal follow-up once again onto Natter in the sky. Huge plays coming out from this Winston player, but is it going to be enough? The card's still getting pushed forward by Revitalize.
It's so funny. It's like they make the Mercy change right now. You can super jump, and it's not just like a really hard technical thing. It's like anyone can do it. It's like, your super jump isn't going to save you this time. I'm on your trail, and gets 2 eliminations in the middle of the air. That cart continued to move forward. So despite the great defensive play, still a lot of movement, and now they're going to try to use a nano to solidify this, but it's a trade on trade.
That it is. Natter once again has the duplicate as well for Revitalize. They've got a little bit of an advantage here, at least they did for a moment, but the spawn advantage now firmly in favor of Spin to win. Exo going down very low, but is the spawn advantage going to be enough? They've got 4 players still alive on the point, but Prime taken out of the fight, but only for a moment as the res does come in. Res coming in onto Exo as well. Spin to win finding a couple of kills that they need to try and hold on to this fight, but this has turned out so scrappy, which honestly has just been the name of the game for Overwatch 2 so far.
Absolutely has, but this railgun duplication might be the nail in the coffin for this push, and as Gallant tries to leap into the air, no one can touch. And that is a full capture on Gibraltar, something that is not easy to do on the attacking side.
No.
You know, definitely a few missteps there with the cart on first point, but I feel like they made up for it in dividends with that amazingly fast time on second. And even though they lost like 2 fights on third, it was kind of the opposite. It was Spin to win that didn't contest Revitalize, and Revitalize just got a lot of free movement.
Yeah, they did. And, you know, you touched on this a moment ago, the couple of times where the fight didn't really seem to go the way of Revitalize on first point. I'd say that happened again on third, and the common factor, I think, in all of those situations was Gallant. Gallant is a phenomenal Winston. I have been just tremendously impressed with him so far. And, you know, I think if Spin to Win comes out with the win here, Gallant should maybe even see a little bit more playtime, because I think they're a standout player so far, at least in my mind, for Spin to win.
There's definitely, you can talk about Trojan and like the impact they've had as well in this series. I was actually kind of surprised to see Trojan come out, but I think that the way they play Winston is just very, very different. And for a map like this, where it's more divey than brawly, I think that's kind of the Winston play style anyway. You can play Winston more as a brawl, just like, you know, plays in the front, protects everyone else. But this, from what we're seeing from Gallant, is just diving into the back line, going for those crazy primal rage kind of mechanic plays where they are just juggling kills all the way off the ground, and with those different play styles gives you a different look and feel, and that's a big part, I feel like, of how Spin to Win was at least able to stop, you know, the bleeding for a little bit.
Very fascinating Widow position coming out there from Exo. Unfortunately, doesn't yield any kills because they don't really have too many places they can back off to. So once they got wind that they were there, it was relatively easy pickings. Natter now on the water tower, looking for some more opportunities to cause some damage. Once again, we've got dueling Widows coming out, and I like seeing this.
Yeah, we haven't really seen Crime though pull out the Widow themselves. We'll have to see how that works out. We've seen Exo do it a few times, and so far they haven't really actually had a chance to really fight each other besides that one look they got and some chip damage. Spin to Win, they're continuing to move this cart underneath the bridge, and then Exo wins a duel against Crime.
Wow, yeah. That's going to be a couple of kills in favor of Spin to Win now. They've made a pretty good progress so far on this cart. Revitalize not really finding the same defensive success that they, or the same success on defense that they found on attack.
Yeah, this Brigida, it's working out big. I mean, Outlaw getting a lot of healing and gets the whip flail in for the final elimination. And if you're not hitting something as Brick, you're not doing your job right. That's kind of how her whole kit works. You get heals based off of that. So being able to be aggressive there and play aggressively and trust your team is huge. And Gallant already has Primal Rage.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Just body blocking the entire team from supporting their other player on point. Crime eventually taken out of the equation, and that was a beautiful stall again from Gallant. I don't need to say it again, but I love this Winston player.
I think they love you too because they want to give you the rest of this map right now. The body block, the primal rage. I mean, it's just a lone Luciel chance trying to make something happen there, but can't stall out long enough. So we talked about how good Revitalize was on this point B, making up for their first point attack and kind of some of the missteps they had there. Can spin the win and keep this up though, because if they keep this blistering time that they've set, like if they can just keep it moving, they're gonna have so much time to work with, and we might actually go to extra rounds for the first time all night.
Certainly could, but it's going to be made a little bit harder by EXO getting taken out of the fight. Website forced to recall to get some of their health back, but only a little bit of it. Squeak is there to finish them off as well. Now they're going to set their sights on the back line. Thunder in a lot of trouble. 2 Winstons on them at the same time. That is just a world of hurt.
Yeah, Nano being committed there too from Thunder onto Gallant, and just help build up their primal rage, so not a waste by any means. Also, they get an elim, so a lot of good stuff there, but they're getting staggered out. This is precious time off the clock now of Gallant and XL falling so late, basically when the fight was already ended, so it's another 10 seconds I'll have to wait for. Rally's good to go, Infosight's good to go. We're gonna have to deal with a Nano, a Primal Rage, potentially a Pulse Bomb. Revitalize has a lot of utility here to just stall out this defensive hold, and this is where things get dicey because they also get first dibs on that high ground.
Yeah, exactly. That is what I was thinking as well. You know, they've got this incredibly valuable defensive position now. Squeak trying to make the most of it with the Primal Rage as well. EXO seeing if they can maybe open things up with a quick pick, but now they've got Squeak on them. Gallant, though, they found another Primal Rage. They're going to town in Spaceship, but they're going to be forced out as they go down to about half health. Looking for potentially another opportunity to do some damage, but just not finding it this time around. They will, though, be able to continue to stay on this high ground. Now they've got Natter dropping in to try and make something happen, but you know what? I don't think they were quite aware that Winston was up there. Now Gallant with control of the card, continuing to do a lot of work, taking chance down very low, but they have the sound barrier in case they get into too much trouble.
Yeah, but ooh, okay. That's a big oopsie daisy. Unfortunately, we've had one player leave the lobby. It's XO disconnected, so we're gonna take a little deep breath while we try to get them back into the swing of things. I'm not sure where their ultimate percentage was, but you know, if they were about to have an ultimate, that is big unluckers. That I'm trying to think of the better way to describe it, but that is, you know, that's just so unfortunate in a game like this, because this is the last game of the series. You know, whoever wins this, they move on. Whoever loses, they go home. This is the lower bracket if you're just tuning in. So things like that can absolutely just foil your plans, and you don't really have any control of it, unfortunately. So hopefully it's not too bad, and hopefully they're able to get back in really quickly. Really, while we had this time, I want to talk about kind of how Revitalize is recovering from what was a not great first point defense. They kind of get rolled over a little bit. They get run through. Some great plays by Gallant as well as by their Brigitte, but since then, they've held on to this high ground super well, and while the cart has gotten a lot of progress, not enough to get the point capture.
No, at least not yet. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that Gallant, I feel like if Gallant gets even a tiny foothold somewhere, they can turn that foothold into a tremendous amount of space. And what we just saw was them not quite getting pushed off of that high ground. They weren't on top of Spaceship, but they were on the bridge right below it. And so I'm wondering if they can't transition this positioning into some success here. But you know, to me, it's almost as though Spin to Win has Gallant in this map, right? Whereas Revitalize, they have their whole team. And I think the difference in team play here could lead to a victory for them.
I saw dual recalls, and I think at that point, Website just can get out of dodge and reset. So they do have EXO back in. EXO now locking in the legs after playing a few different things so far in this map. I just think they're really struggling to find a way in, honestly. Yeah, Gallant goes in and is able to get good positioning, but no one else can follow. No one else can, you know, do the same thing.
Yeah, we're going to see Gallant on that high ground there, but EXO eats an anti-nade. They're going to have to try and get out of dodge fast. Not quite fast enough, as Squeak does find them with the Tesla cannon. It's going to be Thunder going down as well. Gallant not long for this world either, and oh my gosh, the back cap was almost successful. Website, great situational awareness right there.
Yeah, we cannot say C9 with that play because at the last second, Squeak does get back to the cart. I wasn't even looking at that, you know.
Yeah,
usually there's like some sort of I think there's some sort of like sound cue. But,
Yeah.
you know, we're not hearing them here in the caster booth, so that would have been a big surprise. The good news for Spin to Win is that because they move the cart so far back, they don't necessarily have to take the high ground as much. They could just play for the low ground on the cart, but they just keep getting run down.
Oh my gosh, look at this. Both Winstons, once again, going into the back line of Spin to Win. No more supports left for them, just a tank and a DPS, and this double Winston is almost impossible to overcome when it happens.
It's scary too. I mean, they can Primal Rage you right just back into your spawn if you're even lucky to get there yourself. Maybe they just send you back there manually. And they've done it a few times, and every time it's worked out beautifully. I will say there, Revitalize, it seems like they overcommitted, maybe just a smidge with, you know, Duplicate as well as Primal. Spin to Win, actually, for the first time, it feels like forever, will have a pretty big ult advantage, but they're just getting collapsed on again. But they do take out Funky Monkey, that's huge.
That is absolutely massive. Exo just got the tac visor as well, but they've got the kills. They may not even need to commit it here. They may be able to save it for the first part of next point, but no, they're going to tag it on to the end for insurance. Maybe an overcommit this time from them.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't think that was something that was needed, especially considering that because it took you so long to capture the second point, you get like 3 fights at most, depending on where the card is on this third point. So not a lot of time to work with, and not a lot of utility to work with, and Exo also going to be sent back to spawn. Maybe they use it just to reset themselves, swap onto a different hero. That's potentially the best bet. Revitalize, they're playing this super aggressively, though. They're actually taking the fight right at where the cart is, trying to kill off some time. Doesn't really work out, but it does get the rally. That is huge. That is something that is now off the table for quite a bit.
It is, and Revitalize definitely needed that because, again, they don't have any ultimates online. Squeak will likely get their Primal here, though, so they're going to be able to stay in this backline a lot longer. But, no, their health went down too low that they had to drop back to their team. It's going to be Primal Rages from both of these Winstons, and I think whoever ends out on top is going to be the determining factor in this next fight. Both Annas also getting ready to have their Nanos, so both teams looking to execute on the same plan, but a nice railgun shot into Funky Monkey ensures that Revitalize will not have that Nano online. Gallant going to take this opportunity to pop the Primal Rage and try and create even more space for their team. If they're able to finish this map, it's going to be with less time than Revitalize, though. X are getting pushed back pretty far. They're going to see if they can just get a little bit more damage, charge up that railgun some. 3 meters left to go for Spin to Win, but Chance pops a sound barrier right a little late for Crime, but the Nano Boost now committed by Funky Monkey as well, trying to get things going for Revitalize. And I can't believe this. We are on the brink of seeing both teams capture Watch Point Gibraltar. The big pulse bomb coming in for Crime, but is it going to be enough to swing the tides in their favor? Natter with the Primal Rage actually starting to find some kills as well. Now Spin to Win looking like they are out of luck at the moment. Overtime starting to tick over. There's just a few more members of Blue left. It's Website, the only one standing. That's going to be Revitalized, coming back in this fight and winning it at the last moment, sending themselves further into the lower bracket.
No more spinning, no more winning. It was so close, and again, I'm with you. I thought that was going to extra rounds. Exo in particular really popped off near the end. Got some, like, I think like 6 railgun kills at the very end. But it still wasn't enough. The alt bank for Revitalize, it was just built up too much, and there's nothing left to be done, especially that spawn advantage they have there as the defenders. They just come out and they die and they're back like 10 seconds later. The spawn is so far as an attacker, so a great job by Spin to Win to really push, you know, to the end, get to that third point, but it's that second point. I was worried about it, you know, I said, you know, this is where teams get stalled out. They had 5 minutes going to that second point. They had to use all of it just to get to that third point. And I think, you know, they win one more fight, maybe they get that extra time to run back in. Maybe they get the overclock ready to go, and they just run back in and completely demolish with the railgun shots like they had. But, you know, it's not a world of what ifs, it's a world of definites. The definite situation here is Revitalize. They get to fight another day, but Spin to Win, this is the end of the road for them.
That it is, and it's going to be the end of the road for you and I here tonight as well, Jag. But what a pleasure it has been to get to cast some Overwatch too. My first opportunity too. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into the other stream as well. That one has already gone offline. Everything been decided there. So it's us closing things out at the end of the night, Jag. And what a fantastic evening of games it's been. Before we sign off for good for the night, once again, any final words from you?
And we got to thank all of our wonderful sponsors for helping making an event like this happen. So thank you so much to Rank Up, Team Unlimited, Serenity, Dramatic Gaming, Beyond Ranked, Hour Zero, Janghua, Questline Esports, Fight Ramen, Champriya, as well as Esports Tower. I mean, without their support here, events like this wouldn't exist. It's so important to have grassroots events in esports, especially with a new game like Overwatch 2. So it's just been a pleasure to be a part of this. And again, just thank you so much for all those amazing organizations and companies for also helping us out.
And one final thanks, and that's going to be to the Bad Patchy Mari League for producing and running the show. A pleasure to work with you all, and this time no exception to that as well. So thank you so much to them for helping put this on. Thank you to all of you for tuning in and participating tonight. That's going to do it for us, and until next time, GG's.
What's up, everybody? Chef Billy here with Map 5, and I am joined in the booth today with none other than Tickety. Tickety, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
So I'm Tickety, aka Louie in real life. I'm probably best known for being an ex-assistant coach for the Dallas Fuel, as well as the ex-head coach for Team Canada back when World Cup was still a thing. And yeah, I'm not only super psyched to be watching this tournament over the weekend, but I'm actually going to be competing in it myself as well. Threw together a little team, myself and ex-head coach of the Dallas Fuel, Arrow, put together a team, and we'll be probably going 0-2, but looking to have a good time doing it.
What's your favorite part of our beta so far?
It's been like 2 years, right? It's been 2 years since we got something this fresh feeling, and just Overwatch feeling fresh again, not just the new Hero Sojourn, not just the new maps, not just the new map type, just the fresh feeling experience brings me back to like 2016 when Overwatch first launched. It brings me back to wanting to grind the game, falling in love with the game all over again. And really just having that fresh feeling experience is exactly what I wanted from this beta. I was super skeptical at first. I think a lot of people were, but now that I got my hands on it, I've been playing almost every day, and I'm having a blast with it just because it feels fresh again. It feels like Overwatch again.
What would you like to see in the next iteration of the next beta?
I just want to see more of everything. I want to see another new hero added. I want to see more balance patches. They've been doing a great job already updating balance in the beta itself, so I'm sure we're going to see more balance updates. More maps, maybe that new map type that's been sort of like floating around the forums that people are trying to guess at what it might be. It seems like they're finally shifting their direction to be more of a live service game for the PvP side. So hopefully that means this fresh feeling gets to stay with us, not just throughout the betas, but even whenever the game fully launches.
You talked about skepticism amongst the community. What would you say to people that were skeptical about the first beta? What would you say to them now?
Give it a shot. If you weren't sure, if it doesn't look new enough to you, play some games. Better yet, get some friends, play together, and get some time into the game. Again, this feels like brand new game. It feels like the first launch of Overwatch 1, and it's just a blast to play right now. Based on what we've seen from the dev team, the new heightened communication, the new weekly updates, and all that kind of stuff, and what seems to be maybe hints towards a future roadmap for where the beta is going, it seems very optimistic. And this is coming from someone who, for the past 2 years, have been pretty pessimistic about the direction Blizzard's been going with Overwatch 1. I'm really excited to see where Aaron Keller and the rest of the dev team are taking the game. And really, I'm going to be sad when the beta goes down, but I'm just going to be waiting on the edge of my seat for the next round.
You know, you talked about a lot of things being implemented, and one of those things that we both are very, very mindful of and very passionate about is the Path to Pro system. There's one improvement that you personally could affect the change in. What would it be?
Recently, news came out about what the contender season is going to look like and how it is going to function with Open Division. And the biggest downside from that announcement is that the Open Division scene is going to be competing in Overwatch 1, while Contenders is going to be competing in Overwatch 2. And this means that there's a little bit of an awkward transitional phase where all the teams competing in Overwatch 1 will make it into a chance to compete for Contenders, but then we'll have to switch games. We'll have to change from a 6v6 system to a 5v5 system. We'll have to learn new metas. There's a new hero in the mix. There's brand new maps. There's so much new, and I think it's asking too much of teams to like master 2 games essentially. If Overwatch 2 was just fully released, there'd be no problems, but we're not quite there in the dev cycle, obviously, and it might be too much to ask to just let anyone who wants to compete in Open Division guarantee a slot with permanent beta access kind of thing. While it's not ideal, I'm definitely looking forward to the return of Contenders. It's always great to see the amateur scene thriving. It's great to see that Blizzard is continuing to support it. I know there were a lot of people questioning if it would be even returning before the official launch of Overwatch 2 or things like that. Because contenders, especially as we've seen this year in the Overwatch League, is a huge pipeline for talent all over the world to make a splash, be noticed by teams in the league, and then be bumped up to playing in the big leagues, playing on stage. Even if it's not perfect, definitely hyped to see what level of talent we're going to see in the next season of contenders.
Now, is there anything else you want to put out to the community? You can hype yourself up, hype anybody else up, your team you were talking about, or if any kind of a general message you want to put out to everybody out there watching.
Make sure you guys are supporting community-driven events like this. Make sure you guys are supporting Tier 2, Tier 3 Overwatch, all the events like this that happen, that garner more viewers, that leads to more sponsors, more bigger prize pools, more hype in the scene, and more chances for you guys to get involved in the competitive scene. And I think this is Overwatch at its best.
All right, well, Tickety, thank you so much for taking time out of your hectic schedule. But that's going to do it for us. I am Chef Billy with Map 5. Now back to Natter's Overwatch Tournament.